all matter.
Be part of the creation of a safe and inclusive community. Awaken your sense of humanity. Stand with us. Break the stigma and misconception through the power of knowledge. With the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, will lead us to build a better future for us and our generations.
Attend the webinar prepared by the students from Philippine Normal University South Luzon campus, entitled Being LGBTQIA in the Philippines, Challenges, Rights, and Empowerment for Gender Sensitivity and Equity.
3 Sustainable Development Goals will be pursued. SDG 5, Gender Equality, a fundamental human right, and the foundation for a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world. SDG 10, aims at reducing inequality and ensuring no one is left behind within and among countries. SDG 4 is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all.
Ms. Manalo will talk about the overview at 12:30 p.m. and at 2:20 p.m. a talk on empowerment by Mr. John Joseph Marcelana.
Learn together because we are stronger together. Fill out the registration to build a future for the better.
Ms. Manalo will talk about the overview at 12:30 p.m. and at 2:20 p.m. a talk on
not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send the blood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me.
imagine having a secret so terrible that if you were to reveal it, your family would disown you. Your neighbors will say you are diseased, and people everywhere would accuse you of being in violation of not only society's rules, but also nature itself. Now imagine there being a way out. What if you could tell someone this secret? What if no one judged you when you did this? What if people heard your great secret and still accepted you as normal, as an equal, and respected you for who you were despite this secret? For millions of homosexual people in India, the fight over Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code is about the
Good afternoon, Sir Marceliana.
words.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
When you feel valued and loved, it is the warmest sensation.
We all matter.
Be part of the creation of a safe and inclusive community. Awaken your sense of humanity. Stand with us. Break the stigma and misconception through the power of knowledge. With the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, will lead us to build a better future for us and our generations.
Attend the webinar prepared by the students from Philippine Normal University South Luzon campus, entitled Being LGBTQIA in the Philippines, Challenges, Rights, and Empowerment for Gender Sensitivity and Equity.
3 Sustainable Development Goals will be pursued. SDG 5, Gender Equality, a fundamental human right, and the foundation for a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world. SDG 10, aims at reducing inequality and ensuring no one is left behind within and among countries. SDG 4 is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all.
Ms. Manalo will talk about the overview at 12:30 p.m. and at 2:20 p.m. a talk on empowerment by Mr. John Joseph Marcellana.
Learn together because we are stronger together. Fill out the registration to build a future for the better.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we are about to begin, please be guided by our few rules and reminders. Cooperation in completing this webinar. For every participant inside, please make sure to mute your microphone upon entering the webinar session to avoid unnecessary noises. You can unmute your microphone when you are acknowledged to speak. You can turn off your camera if you face bandwidth issues, and type your questions in the chat box, and the questions will be answered at the end of the speaker's discussion. I hope it is clear and understood.
When you feel valued and loved, it is the warmest sensation.
We all matter.
Be part of the creation of a safe and inclusive community. Awaken your sense of humanity. Stand with us. Break the stigma and misconception through the power of knowledge. With the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, will lead us to build a better future for us and our generations.
Attend the webinar prepared by the students from Philippine Normal University South Luzon campus, entitled Being LGBTQIA in the Philippines, Challenges, Rights, and Empowerment for Gender Sensitivity and Equity.
3 Sustainable Development Goals will be pursued. SDG 5, Gender Equality, a fundamental human right, and the foundation for a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world. SDG 10, aims at reducing inequality and ensuring no one is left behind within and among countries. SDG 4 is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all.
Ms. Manalo will talk about the overview at 12:30 p.m. and at 2:20 p.m. a talk on empowerment by Mr. John Joseph Marcelana.
Learn together because we are stronger together. Fill out the registration to build a future for the better.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown a mind. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me.
Imagine having a secret. A secret so terrible that if you were to reveal it, your family would disown you. Your neighbors will say you are diseased, and people everywhere would accuse you of being in violation of not only society's rules, but also nature itself. Now imagine there being a way out. What if you could tell someone this secret? What if no one judged you when you did this? What if people heard your great secret and still accepted you as normal, as an equal, and respected you for who you were despite this secret? For millions of homosexual people in India, the fight over Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code is about the difference between these two worlds. It is about respect.
When you feel valued and loved, it is the warmest sensation.
We all matter.
Be part of the creation of a safe and inclusive community. Awaken your sense of humanity. Stand with us. Break the stigma and misconception through the power of knowledge. With the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, will lead us to build a better future for us and our generations.
Attend the webinar prepared by the students from Philippine Normal University South Luzon campus, entitled Being LGBTQIA in the Philippines, Challenges, Rights, and Empowerment for Gender Sensitivity and Equity.
3 Sustainable Development Goals will be pursued. SDG 5, Gender Equality, a fundamental human right, and the foundation for a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world. SDG 10, aims at reducing inequality and ensuring no one is left behind within and among countries. SDG 4 is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all.
Ms. Manalo will talk about the overview at 12:30 p.m. and at 2:20 p.m. a talk on empowerment by Mr. John Joseph Marcelana.
Learn together because we are stronger together. Fill out the registration to build a future for the better.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send the blood, gonna drown a mind. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. Another round of bullets, it's my gonna send the blood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be, this is me.
Good afternoon, participants. We would like to extend for a couple of minutes before the formal opening as we are waiting for our NSTP coordinator. We apologize for the inconvenience and hoping for your consideration. Thank you.
When you feel valued and loved, it is the warmest sensation.
We all matter.
Be part of the creation of a safe and inclusive community. Awaken your sense of humanity. Stand with us. Break the stigma and misconception through the power of knowledge. With the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, will lead us to build a better future for us and our generations.
Attend the webinar prepared by the students from Philippine Normal University South Luzon campus, entitled Being LGBTQIA in the Philippines, Challenges, Rights, and Empowerment for Gender Sensitivity and Equity.
3 Sustainable Development Goals will be pursued. SDG 5, Gender Equality, a fundamental human right, and the foundation for a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world. SDG 10, aims at reducing inequality and ensuring no one is left behind within and among countries. SDG 4 is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all.
Ms. Manalo will talk about the overview at 12:30 p.m. and at 2:20 p.m. a talk on empowerment by Mr. John Joseph Marcelana.
Learn together because we are stronger together. Fill out the registration to build a future for the better.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a blood, gonna drown a mind. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me.
Hello PNU and hello PNU1, especially to our guest participants behind those icons. To formally open this program, let me first introduce myself. I am your today's MC, Mary Rose S. Macabuhay from 2 BMSEE. Together with my beautiful, smart, and talented co-MC, Miss Stephanie Alyssa M. Lladonez. Hi partner, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, partner. Miss Macabuhay is also one of the talented persons I know, and a smart one indeed. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Stephanie Alyssa M. Lladonez from 2nd year BMSEE, and we are your masters of ceremony for the day.
Once again, let me highlight our house rules and reminders. First, I would like to seek your cooperation in completing this webinar. For every participant inside, please make sure to mute your microphone upon entering the webinar session to avoid unnecessary noises. You can unmute your microphone when you are acknowledged to speak. You can turn off your camera if you face bandwidth issues. And you can type your questions in the chat box, and the questions will be answered at the end of the speaker's discussion. I hope it is clear and understood. For our opening ceremony, may I call on the attention of everyone as we put our minds and feel the presence of God through a prayer to be followed by singing the national anthem of the Philippines, Lupang Hinirang, and PNU's mission, vision, and goals.
Lord, thank you for this day, for the presence of everyone in this call. For once again, we are gathered and given the opportunity to appreciate life and your words. Forgive us for our shortcomings and cleanse our hearts as we learn and live your words and example. Father, bless our endeavors, especially today's meeting. May you guide us in our discussions, and may you enlighten our minds in every decision that we make. Give us your grace that we may effectively do our parts for your greater glory. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoya, sa langit pabaga, may dilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidinig. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidinig. Lupa ng araw ng ating pagsinta, ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya ng pagmay mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
May I request everyone to open their cameras for a photo opportunity before we start to gain insights from this webinar.
Again, may I request everyone to open their cameras for our photo opportunity. Thank you. Please wear your best smiles. Okay, first slide. 1, 2. Second slide. 1, 2. Okay, thank you very much. Again, good morning, everyone, to my classmates, professors, attendees, and our guest speaker. Today is August 3, 2022, and we're about to hear a message from Professor Mark Joshua Hagosohos, our NSTP 12 part-time faculty. So the virtual microphone is yours. Please give him a virtual round of applause. Sir Josh.
Thank you so much for introducing me. Kinig ba yung audio ko? Malinaw?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear po.
Ayan, tulad ng pinangako ko sa inyo, ano na ako ngayon, mag-open cam na ako ngayon kasi buong term po nila akong hindi nakita ngayon. So before ako I would like to thank all the team for providing our participants very wonderful webinar. Alam ko mag-open kayo at marami kayong matututunan dito to our dearest participants. Marami kayong matututunan from our dearest speakers. And especially, we also have Sir JJ Marceliana. And maraming salamat po, sir, sa pagtanggap ng aming invitasyon. Kasi ito ay parte ng kanilang course ng kanilang kurso bilang kanilang partial fulfillment po sa kanilang NSTP course. And also to the other speaker, who's the other speaker? Sorry. Miss Mary Rose. Sino nga bang isang speaker natin?
Si Miss Marie Claire Manalo po, sir.
Miss Marie Claire Manalo. And ayun, abangan po natin kung ano yung kanilang mga i-discuss kasi ang discussion regarding LGBTQIA community is very timely at napakahalaga nito upang magkaroon tayo ng safe spaces sa ating paligid. And it will also help contribute in providing a community-driven peace-building community. Okay, and thank you so much. Enjoy the webinar and hope you learn so many things in this. Thank you so much.
For that warm and wonderful message, thank you, Professor Josh. Let's now proceed to the opening remarks and statement of purpose to be delivered by Ms. Joyce Garcia, our virtual event specialist from second year BMSEE. Please give her a virtual round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished participants, to our faculties, teachers from elementary schools, students from PUP, SLSU, ECC, co-PNU1s, to our viewers via YouTube Live and everyone present here. Again, I am pleased to welcome you to the webinar on being LGBTQIA+ in the Philippines. Challenges, rights, and empowerment for gender sensitivity and equity, prepared by Ms. Macabuhay, Ms. Factor, Ms. Lladonez, Ms. Manalo, Ms. Norada, and yours truly, Ms. Garcia. The reason behind why we chose to conduct this topic is the existing inequality amongst LGBTQIA+ people. They are also referred as invisible minorities, which happens everywhere throughout the country, from their own homes to society. No one likes to suffer, either physically or emotionally. No one likes to be abused. To suffer in life is one of the things we would not wish for. As part of the Philippine Normal University, we would like to do something about this. Create a safe and welcoming space for all. By all means every single person, regardless of their sexual orientation and gender identity. We would like to magnify the acceptance level of the community towards one another through unity and not as a fragmented society. Through the power of knowledge, we would raise awareness and support for the creation of an inclusive community. All of this will only be possible if every one of you watching this webinar will learn and stand with us. Please bring the lessons into your hearts and minds. Again, we, BMSEE-II, welcome you to this memorable and significant event. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that warm welcoming message, Ms. Joyce.
Without further ado, let's now proceed to the introduction to the first speaker. Ms. Macabuhay, please do the honor.
Our first speaker is a second-year college student of Philippine Normal University South Luzon campus, taking Bachelor of Mathematics and Science Elementary Education. She took General Academic Strand in St. Lawrence Academy during her senior high school years and graduated with high honors in 2020. Our first speaker is none other than Miss Marie Claire M. Manalo. Please give her a virtual round of applause. Miss Marie Claire.
Hello po.
Do you want to greet our participants, Miss Manalo? Before we proceed to your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. So for the participants, thank you for attending our webinar. I hope everyone is now ready to listen and learn. So the topics I am to discuss is overview on LGBTQIA+ community and existing challenges and issues. LGBTQIA+ community and its impact. Now here's my presentation.
By this, we would like to proceed with Ms. Marie Claire's presentation.
Good afternoon. I'm going to talk about overview and existing issues and challenges in LGBTQIA+ community. This talk aims to address 3 Sustainable Development Goals. First, Sustainable Development Goal number 4, quality education. The goal of quality education aims to eliminate gender disparities in education and ensure equal access to all levels of education and vocational training for the vulnerable. It also ought to ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including, among others, through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyle, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and non-violence, global citizenship and appreciation of cultural diversity, and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. It as well ought to upgrade education facilities that are child, disability, and gender sensitive and provide safe, non-violent, inclusive, and effective learning environments for all. The second, Sustainable Development Goal number 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls, which says, equality between men and women is an integral part of human rights and a fundamental criterion for democracy. The third, Sustainable Goal number 10, reduce inequalities. Under this is in the 10.2 goal, which aims to empower and promote the social, economic, and political inclusion of all, irrespective of age, sex, disability, race, ethnicity, origin, religion, or economic or other status. LGBTQIA are one of the minorities in the society, but they are often not seen as one since they are sometimes referred to as invisible minority. Why invisible minority? It is for the reason that we often not see them as part of the minority. Thus, inequality amongst LGBTQIA people happen everywhere throughout the country, from their own home to the society. This talk aims to inspire people to be an ally of the LGBTQIA+. The first content, overview on LGBTQIA+ in the community. Including with this are defining terms. A term to be defined are sex, gender, sexual orientation, and gender identity. LGBTQIA acronym, other related terms, and debunking myths. Before we finally start, let me share this quotation to you by Barbara Gittings, which says, equality means more than passing laws. The struggle is really won in the hearts and minds of the community where it really counts. So that is why we held this talk, hoping that we spark something in your heart and your minds regarding the LGBTQIA+ people. Kagaya nga ng sabi ni Barbara Gittings, equality is hindi lang siya basta pagpapasa ng mga batas, pero naglalay talaga yung pag-achieve ng equality sa puso at sa isipan ng mamamayan. Kasi ano namang silbi ng mga batas na ipinapasa kung yung mga tao naman na susunod o dapat gumawa o sumunod dun sa batas na ipapatupad, hindi naman sila willing o hindi naman nila naiintindihan, hindi naman nila ina-accept ang LGBTQ. So, yung mga laws na ipinapasa, mawawalan din sila ng silbi kung hindi naman napanalo yung ekwalidad sa puso at sa isipan ng komunidad. So, let us first start with the first content, defining the terms. Defining the term sex, gender, sexual orientation, and gender identity. First, sex refers to the legal status that was initially determined by sex characteristics observed at birth. Sex characteristics involves person's physical sex features, such as their chromosomes, hormones, and reproductive organs. Sex is what everyone is biologically born as, such as male, female, or intersex. Next, gender, a socially constructed system of classifications that ascribe qualities of femininity and masculinity to people. So, gender is how we express masculinity and femininity. Think of a linear scale with femininity on one side and a masculinity on the other side. Instead of promoting one or the other based on sex, people can move throughout the gender scale freely and express their various degrees of both at will despite their biological anatomy. Next, sexuality. It relates to who people are attracted to. It's good to know that people can experience attraction in ways that are physical, sexual, and romantic. And those attraction may be with people of different genders and or sexualities. We should remember that sexuality can change over the course of someone's life and in different situations. It's understood to be a spectrum instead of a series of mutually exclusive categories. Then, gender identity. A gender identity is a person's internal sense of their own gender. Cisgender, transgender, man, woman, and genderqueer are all examples of gender identities. A person's gender identity does not necessarily correspond to their sex assigned at birth. It is how someone inherently knows what their gender is in their brain and body, despite what their sex assigned at birth might be. Now, let's proceed with LGBTQIA+ acronym. So before we learn about LGBTQIA+, let us first know what is LGBTQIA+. So LGBTQIA+ is an acronym for people that have identity that is non-cisgender and non-straight. Cisgender is where someone's sex is aligned with their gender identity, while straight is attracted to opposite gender. Kapag sinabi natin non-cisgender, ibig sabihin yung kanyang biological anatomy at birth is hindi siya tugma dun sa kanyang gender identity, while non-straight naman is hindi siya yung taong yon hindi siya attracted with the opposite gender. Did you know that the symbol plus in the LGBTQIA+ is an acknowledgement that there are non-cisgender, non-straight identities that are not included in the acronym? Now, let's unravel what stands for each letter in LGBTQIA+. So, L is for lesbian, G is for gay, B is for bisexual, T is for transgender, Q is for queer, I is for intersex, and A is for asexual. Now, let's define each term. So, first, lesbian. These terms used to describe women who are exclusively or primarily attracted to other women in a romantic, erotic, and or emotional sense. Remember that some people who are lesbians may also refer to themselves as gay or queer, while others prefer the term lesbian. So the term depends on what the person prefers to call themselves. Next, gay. Gay are people who experience sexual, romantic, or emotional attraction to people of the same or similar gender. Kaya nga, there are lesbians who prefer to call themselves gay. So it is also best to ask which word or term someone uses to describe themselves. But we commonly know gay as man who are exclusively or primarily attracted to other men. Next, bisexual. So bisexual is a sexual orientation that describes people who experience sexual, romantic, or emotional attraction to people more than one gender. That attraction doesn't necessarily mean you are attracted to someone with different genders at the same time. Transgender. Transgender is an umbrella term for people whose gender identity or gender expression differs from what typically is associated with the sex they were assigned at birth. By the way, umbrella term means shorthand. So when we say umbrella term, this means that it is the shorthand term. The next term, letter Q, queer. This is an umbrella term referring to anyone who is not straight and not cisgender. Term describing people who have a non-normative gender identity, sexual orientation, or sexual anatomy. These include lesbians, gay, men, bisexual people, transgender people, and a host of other identities. So that is why sinabi ko kanina na some lesbian prefer to call themselves queer and some gays prefer to call themselves queer as well. Since queer people are those people who are not cisgender and not straight. So basically, kagaya ng sabi ko kanina, ang cisgender is wherein yung sex na assigned at birth ng isang tao is assigned sa kanyang, sa kanyang gender identity. So nagtutugma yung kanyang sex assigned at birth at saka yung kanyang gender identity. Halimbawa, I am female assigned at birth since I have a female genitalia and my gender identity is woman. Then therefore, I am cisgender. Then, I am straight if I am attracted to opposite gender since I am a woman. If I am attracted to man to my opposite gender, therefore, I am considered to be straight. So, straight people are those people that are attracted with the opposite gender or basically, yung most common natin is man, woman to man. And since basically, ang gay natin is attracted siya sa same gender and not the opposite gender, gay persons can be queer or can prefer to call themselves queer. Next, intersex. These are people who are born with physical features such as genitals, chromosomes, or genetic features that don't fit what doctors expect for either male or female bodies. This term refers to people who naturally have biological traits such as hormonal levels or genitalia that do not match what is typically identified as male or female. Being intersex is not linked to sexual orientation or gender identity. Intersex people can have different sexual orientation and gender identities and expressions. The next, asexual. So an asexual is an umbrella term or a shorthand term used for individuals who do not experience or may experience but a low level of sexual desire. This identity can include those who are interested in having romantic relationships and those who are not. People of different sexual orientation and gender identities can be asexual. Kilalanin natin ang ilang member ng LGBTQIA. This next picture, I expect kilala siya ng lahat, si Vice Ganda. Isa siyang TV host and comedian. Vice Ganda is gay. Then, ang next picture is si Nora Honor. Nora Honor is an artist. Well, sikat din siya artista, so maybe kilala rin natin siya. And Nora Honor is bisexual. Inamin niya sa isang interview that she may be bisexual. Next picture, that is Joyce Pimpenko. Cyrus came out as a gay woman in 2013. In 2017, he came out as a transgender male after having male chest reconstruction and beginning testosterone treatment. He adopted the name Jake Cyrus and discontinued the use of the name Joyce Pimpenko. Now, our next picture. Can you tell if the person in picture is a female or male? Well, maaaring iba sa inyo sabihin male kasi it looks like one based on physical characteristic. But some may answer female or some may think out of the box and answer female. Kasi bakit ko nga naman tatanungin kung ganun kadali yung sagot, hindi ba? So, for those who answered female, then you are correct. And for those who answer male, well, tama rin naman kayo. So, Jeff Kagandahan, former Jennifer Kagandahan, is a prominent Filipino intersex man and intersex human rights activist, raised female and diagnosed with the congenital adrenal hyperplasia. The congenital adrenal hyperplasia or CHA is a rare condition that could cause early or inappropriate appearance of male characteristics and produces too much androgen or a male hormone and involves intersex anatomy. Kagandahan successfully petitioned the Philippine court to change name and sex markers, becoming the first person to win the case. December 11, when Kagandahan filed a petition for correction of entries in birth certificate before the RTC as to her name from Jennifer to Jeff and gender from female to male. Now let's talk about other related terms. So So other related terms refers to the plus in the LGBTQIA+. This includes a gender, gender non-binary, gender non-conforming, pan-romantic, while questioning. First, a gender. So a gender refers to those who do not identify as any gender at all. Then, gender non-conforming, a person who either by nature or by choice does not conform to gender-based expectation of society. Halimbawa, or hindi ako nag-conform kung ano yung expectation ng mga tao or ng society sa gender na ang babae dapat girly manamit, ganyan, na ang lalaki dapat tigasin, yung malakas, ganyan. Next, pan-romantic. So, pan-romantic is a term that describes people who can experience romantic or emotional, but not sexual, attraction to any person, regardless of that person's gender, sex, or sexuality. Next is the questioning. Questioning describes someone who is questioning their sexual orientation or gender identity. Maaari ring ang questioning is yung hindi pa nila sigurado kung ano yung gender identity nila or sexual orientation. Then, list of the not so basic related terms regarding LGBTQIA. Cisgender, seeing gender expression, heterosexual, while cisgender, kagaya na nababanggit kanina, is someone who feels comfortable with the gender identity assigned to them based on their physical sex. People who identify as cisgender and transgender can be straight. Then, next is gender expression. Gender expression is how one expresses oneself externally in terms of dress, speech, and mannerism that society characterizes as masculine or feminine. This may also include things like hairstyle, clothing, mannerism, name, and pronouns. So, yung member ng LGBTQ may vary in terms of their expression or gender expression. Hindi lahat ng gay ay isa ng gender expression, isa ng pananamit, isa ng hairstyle, isa ng mannerism. So, it varies depending on the person. Then, heterosexual, a term that describes people who experience sexual, romantic, or emotional attraction to people of the opposite gender, often called straight person. The main difference between cisgender and heterosexual is that cisgender is gender identity, while heterosexual is sexual orientation. Now, let's move on to debunking myths and stereotypes. The first myths, all gay or bakla are creative and artistic. So, hindi lahat. We have that stereotypes na kapag bakla, ay magaling yan sa ganyan, magaling yan gumupit, magaling sa pag-makeup, ganon. Pero hindi lahat. Tulad ng mga heterosexual and cisgender, may iba-iba ring katangian and talent ang gay people. The next myth, all gay men are feminine and all lesbian are masculine. So fact, not all gay men fit the stereotype of the drag queen or sissy, nor all the lesbians butch. Also, some heterosexual men have feminine traits and some heterosexual women have masculine traits. So let's see this video.
But you don't look gay. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just...
Dito sa atin sa Pilipinas, kapag sinabing bakla or gay, ang iniisip agad natin ay yung pa-girly, pa-feminine, pa-kikay, yung ganyan. But hindi lahat ng gay ay feminine at hindi naman lahat ng lesbian ay masculine. Then, LGBT people can easily be identified by certain mannerism or physical characteristics. So, this is also a myth. The fact is, LGBT people come in as many different shapes, colors, and sizes as non-LGBT folks. So, hindi natin pwedeng ibase yung kanilang gender identity. Hindi natin pwedeng i-assume yung gender identity ng isang tao base lang sa kanyang physical na anyo or sa kanyang mga gawain, kanyang mannerism. Hindi porket lalamya-lamya yung isang lalaki is hindi na siya lalaki and sasabihin natin na ay bakla. Then, homosexuality is an illness or a health issue is also a myth. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association removed the homosexuality from its list of mental disorders. Being LGBT is no more curable than being heterosexual or non-transgender. Then the next myth is that LGBTQIA+ can be cured by appropriate therapy. So-called therapies that promise to change or convert a person's sexual orientation or gender identity are widely discredited. Conversion therapy is widely opposed by prominent professional medical associations, including the American Psychological Association, American Psychiatric Association, and the American School Counselor Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the American Medication Association. While conversion therapy in no way succeeds in changing a person's identity, it can have a devastating effect on the subject's mental health. According to Trevor's Project peer-reviewed article in the American Journal of Public Health, LGBTQ youth who underwent conversion therapy were more than twice as likely to report having attempted suicide and more than 2.5 times as likely to report multiple suicide attempts in the past year compared to those who did not. Whether one is criticizing, judging, attempting to cure, or trying to repair a person's gender or sexuality, the result is harm. These actions tell LGBTQIA people that their authentic selves are wrong or bad, that there are some problem needed to be addressed. Then our next myth is that being LGBTQIA+ is a choice. So, a choice is defined as the right, power, or opportunity to choose. While we can choose how we respond, we ultimately don't have much power over how we innately feel. Sexual orientation and gender identity are not a choice, but whether we accept or like our identity is a different issue. Although we can choose whether to act on our feelings, psychologists do not consider sexual orientation to be a conscious choice that can be voluntarily changed. If being gay is truly a choice, then people who attempt to change their orientation should be able to do so. But most people who are gay describe it as a deeply ingrained attraction that can't be simply shut off or redirected. Although sexual orientation and gender identity is not a choice, there are some things about ourselves that we can change. That is, to transform or convert. You can change how you express your gender, such as choosing to wear something traditionally coded as masculine, like a tuxedo, or choosing to wear something traditionally coded as feminine, such as a dress. Whether you wear a tux or a dress may influence how people interpret your gender. But clothing alone cannot change your inner sense of gender identity or who you are attracted to. The next myth is that HIV is a gay or LGBT disease. In reality, while rates of HIV are disproportionately higher among members of LGBTQ community, HIV is by no means confined to LGBTQ people. Anyone, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, or other factors can acquire HIV. Calling HIV a gay or LGBTQ disease is medically untrue and only serves to perpetuate harmful stereotypes about people living with HIV and members of LGBTQIA. Now, let's move on to existing challenges and issues in the LGBTQIA community. Homes, schools, and workplace should be safe places for everyone. But in the Philippines, persons who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and asexual, and others too often experience bullying, discrimination, lack of access to LGBT-related information, and in some cases, physical or sexual assault. So this talk includes existing challenges LGBTQIA face, the impacts of the challenges, and how to be an ally. Let's first talk about existing challenges. This includes challenges in physical bullying, sexual assault and harassment, verbal harassment, access to facilities, pressure to conform stereotypes, health, and family affairs. In terms of physical bullying, a statement from Carlos M. Gay, when I was in high school, they'd push me, punch me. When I'd get out of school, they'd follow me and push me, call me gay, faggot, things like that. So these statements or these experiences are just the common experiences of the members of LGBTQIA community. I just cite some statements. Pero karaniwan sa mga experience nila na physical assault is inahayaan na lang nila or hindi nila isinusumbong sa takot na baka mas lalo pa silang ibully, and according to some members, wala rin naman silang mapagsusumbungan. For I proceed, I just wanted to clear that the names written in these following statements are just pseudonyms. They are just pen name and they are not the actual name of the person na nagsabi ng mga statements na yon. The next, sexual assault and harassment. According to Gabi, naranasan niya na Sinusubukan ng mga estudyante na strip off her clothes in public, being forced into a restroom and sexually assaulted on a separate occasion, being locked in a cubicle in the men's restroom and sexually assaulted. Well, then verbal harassment. According to Ernesto, a gay teacher, here in the Philippines, being called bayot, it's discrimination. It's being told you're nothing, you're lower than dirt, that you're a sinner, that you should go to hell. Sa karanasan din ni Sean, students would shout 50 pesos, 50 pesos as he walked past. Ito yung sinasabi na parang binibili ka nila na 50 pesos lang yung halaga mo. Parang ginagawa ka nilang prostitute. Sa paningin nila, bayaran ka. Pinagpapalagay nila na yung mga gay bayaran. And pag binigyan mo sila ng 150 or ng pera ng ganyang exact amount, papayag sila. And that is a verbal harassment. Then, next, access to facilities. Gabby, a transgender girl, said that boys peep on us when we use the boys' restroom. And they say we're trying to have sex with them, things like that. So, yung mga transgender girl, hindi sila makapag-CR sa male's bathroom kasi they experience bullying and discrimination sa male bathroom. Kasi nga, katulad ng experience ni Gabby, sinasabi nung may mga male na nagsasabi sa kanila na gusto lang nilang makipag-sex kaya sila nandun sa bathroom na yon. And hindi rin sila makapag-CR ng maayos or makapag-restroom, makapag-bathroom sa girls' bathroom kasi not all girls see transgender girl as girl. Inisip nila na ay lalaki pa rin yan, na ganyan, na ganon. So, in both bathrooms, hindi nila ma-access. And wala namang available na bathroom para sa kanila. So, really, there are challenges, there's a very big challenges regarding the access and facilities amongst LGBTQIA people. The next, pressure to conform stereotypes. Eric Manalastas, a psychology professor at the University of the Philippines who has conducted research on LGBT youth issues, found that gay students or those who are out or coded as gay are sometimes given extra work at school, including extracurricular work, being asked to be an MC at an event or fixing the stage for a performance, or being asked to clean up after school. Pagiging LGBTQ, they have that stereotypes na they need to earn respect. Na kung dapat magaling ka sa ganyan, matalino ka, kaya mong gumawa ng maraming bagay, or artistic or creative, then that could lessen na hindi ka mabully, na ma-make fun. Pero hindi dapat ganon. In the very first place, everyone should be respected. While in terms of health, that there are no specialized services for trans people and no hormone therapy available in our country. And since there are no hormone therapy dito sa Pilipinas, yung mga LGBT or yung mga gay or lesbian people, kailangan pa nilang mag-ibang bansa or kung saan man mayroong available na therapy kung gusto nilang mag-undergo ng hormone therapy. And hindi lahat may pera na mag-travel or pumunta sa ibang bansa. So, hindi lahat kayang gawin yon. Then, in terms of work and employment, Gretchen Diaz, a transgender woman, says, bakla yan, pang parlor, pang comedy bar. So, meron kasi tayong stereotypes na pag bakla, ay comedian yan, pang parlor, magaling yan mag-makeup, magaling sa mga buhok-buhok, pero hindi lahat. Hindi naman sinasabi na hindi maganda or masama yung mga gay na nagpa-parlor, but parang nagkakaroon sa community na hindi ka pwedeng umabot ng iba pang trabaho aside from being a parlorista or comedian. And sa name din, dahil nga sa Pilipinas, hindi legal yung pagbabago ng name dahil sa pagiging LGBT, ganyan, hindi yung legal sa Pilipinas. So, every time na halimbawa may job interview, nakalagay sa resume, of course, yung original name mo sa birth certificate kasi hindi naman pwedeng baguhin. So, yung mga LGBT people, kailangan nilang, kahit ayaw na nilang matatawag na halimbawa, yung gay, nagbago na siya ng pangalan. Let's say, Roberto, naging Berta. So, every time na nag-a-apply siya ng trabaho, ang tawag pa rin is yung name niya, yung male name niya. Kasi nga, hindi naman pwedeng baguhin, hindi legal na baguhin din sa Pilipinas. So, every time, kailangan pa nilang isabihin na ganito yung prefer nila na name, ganito ang gusto nilang itawag sa kanila. Every time, kailangan pa nilang ulit-ulitin na sabihin na ganon. In terms of family affairs, same-sex couples have no legal right to adopt children jointly or through second parent adoption. However, single people can legally adopt children. And aside from that, lesbianism and homosexuality are listed as grounds for marriage annulment under Articles 46 and 55.6 of the Family Code.
Naglalakad lang ang grupo ng mga kabataan ng isa sa kanila ang biglang tumakbo at buong pwersang nag-flying kick sa nakasalubong. Napasigaw at napatakbo ang biktima habang binibidyohan ng kasama ng nanipa. Pero hindi na kontento at hinabol pa siya ng mga kabataan. Ang pananakit, nakuha nitong August 18 mula sa Buanga City. Sa mga larawang ito, makikita ang 6 na babaeng edad 16 hanggang 20 na kinakalbo sa harap ng kanilang mga kabarangay sa Ampatuan, Maguindanao, kamakailan. Pero hindi ito simpleng paggupit, kundi isang kaparusahan daw sa mga babae dahil sa pagiging lesbian.
Talk about the impacts of the challenges to LGBTQIA people. According to Patrick G., a 19-year-old gay man who had attended high school in Cainta, they were teasing me for being effeminate. I developed this concept of how a man should walk, how a man should talk. It became maybe because of them calling me malamya or effeminate, I became the person that I'm not. While 39% gay and bisexual men attempted suicide compared to 26% heterosexual men. And young adult fertility and sexuality survey number 3, 27% lesbian and bisexual men contemplated suicide, while just 18% heterosexual men contemplated suicide. Women, I mean. While 6.6 lesbian and bisexual women attempted suicide, while just 3.9 heterosexual women attempted suicide. J. Of Morgado, a social worker, observed that for some students, bullying turns into depression because they feel they don't belong, and he believed that many students drop out because they feel they don't have a support group and feel isolated. While Annalyn V., a 17-year-old bisexual girl in Mandawi City, said, "Teachers don't step in, they think it's a joke, but some jokes are below the belt. We conceal being hard because maybe they think it's overreacting." Ardel Tuaser, on the other hand, a gay, said that the repeated question of the price, "Do you believe Christ can change you?" in a way forcing me to believe that can change me. I think that is mental torture. So yung naranasan ni Ardel Tuason is what we call the reparative therapy or the conversion therapy, wherein pinipilit siyang nung pare na sagutin ng oo yung tanong na, "Do you believe Christ can change you?" So although ang sagot niya nung una is hindi, sa paulit-ulit na tanong ng pare hanggat di siya umuoo or hanggat hindi siya naniniwala na kayang baguhin ni Christ yung pagkatao niya, para kay Arjan naging mental torture yon kasi nga pinipilit siya na baguhin kung ano man yung nararamdaman niya, kung ano man yung pagkatao niya. A statement from Bems Benito from ang Ladlad Party List, "Mga anak din kami ng Diyos. Bilang LGBT at tao rin kami, kailangan din namin ng mga karapatan." Before I tell you how to be an ally, what do we mean when we say ally? Anyone, regardless of their sexual orientation and or gender identity, can support lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and asexual people. So, what does ally mean? An ally is a person who has genuine, strong concern for the well-being of LGBT people. A person who supports and accepts LGBT people and advocates for equal rights and fair treatment. A person who confronts challenges that LGBT people experience and believes that we face problems in society like heterosexism, the assumption that everyone is or should be straight, and there is heterosexual privilege, the everyday privilege straight people have in society. For example, the ability to display attraction or affection such as holding hands to the opposite gender in public without fear of judgment or even violence. So how to be an ally? First, be informed, open to learn and educate yourself. Part of being supportive to your LGBTQIA+ friends and loved ones means developing a true understanding of how the world views and treats them. It sounds obvious, but to learn, you need to be willing and open to truly listen. Listen to your friends' personal stories and ask questions respectfully. Take it upon yourself to learn about LGBTQIA history, terminology, and the struggles the community still faces today. So, to be an ally, open ka na makinig, na ma-accept yung mga concepts, na makita, malaman kung paano sila itinitreat, kung ano yung mga challenges na nasa nila, kung paano ba sila nakikita ng mundo. Then the next is speak up. Maraming rason kung bakit hindi tayo kung bakit hindi nag-speak up or nagsasalita, nag-stand up for specific ang isang tao. Kapag kapag nakakarinig tayo ng mga offensive words like, that's so gay, ay bakla, ganyan. Tibo. Minsan yung iba na awkward, ayaw nilang makailam, ayaw nila ng mas malaking gulo. But speaking up is powerful. Or yung iba naman hindi alam kung ano ang sasabihin, hindi alam kung ano ang gagawin. But words can hurt. You should speak up and educate others. Let them know their words are not acceptable and that way, maaari tayong maka-inspire ng ibang tao na mag-speak up rin every time na may nakita silang discrimination or bullying na sabihin natin na yung mga ganong salita hindi acceptable, nakaka-insulto, nakakasakit ka ng ibang tao, at hindi ka aya-ayang pakinggan. Besides, never naging maganda ang bullying and discrimination. Next, don't assume. Don't assume that all of your friends, co-workers, and even housemates are straight. Don't assume someone's gender or pronouns. LGBTQIA+ people don't look a particular way in someone's current or previous partners doesn't define their sexuality. Someone close to you could be looking for support, not making assumptions. Will give them the space they need to be their authentic self and open up to you in their own time. Don't assume someone's sexual orientation and gender identity. Hayaan natin sila ang magsabi or sila ang mag-express ng sarili nila. Magbigyan natin sila ng time na ipakita yung kanilang authentic self. The next, support equality. To be an ally, we should support policies at school, work, or other places that help protect LGBT people from discrimination. Even if the issues seem small, they can have a big impact on people's lives. If you see or hear of an unfair rule or policy, talk to a peer or trusted adult about your concerns and what you can do to make a change. Next, language matters. We form human communications through language. The majority of us respect when someone's changed their nickname. Ako yung mga kaibigan natin, nagbago sila ng nickname, mas gusto nila yung nickname. Same yun sa pagbabago ng pangalan ng LGBTQIA+ people. At yung kanilang pronoun. Kung gusto nilang mas prefer nila na tawagin sila sa ganyang pangalan, we should respect that. And language does really matter. So ngayon, may mga gender pronouns na nagbabago. And gender pronouns nakadepende din sa tao kung ano ang prefer nila na gender pronoun. Kapag hindi natin alam kung paano ba sila tatawagin or kung anong pronoun ba yung gagamitin natin, better use first name basis. In that way, magiging safe tayo, hindi natin sila masasaktan, hindi natin masasaktan yung feelings nila sa pag-assume ng kanilang gender pronoun. Sa Tagalog kasi hindi masyadong mahirap yung ganun yung pronoun. Kasi yung siya, sila, yung siya, ganyan, is hindi naman specifically babae. Unlike sa English language na ang she means female and he is for male, ganyan. Sa Tagalog kasi yung siya, pwedeng babae or pwedeng lalaki. So, pag sinabi mong siya, hindi siya specifically na babae or lalaki. But in English language, yung he or she could offend someone, especially kung hindi niya gusto yung paggamit ng, kung a gay, hindi niya gusto ang paggamit ng pronoun na he, or mas gusto niya yung she. You should respect that. Kasi yun yung gusto niya, yun yung prefer niya Doon siya at ease, doon siya comfortable, doon siya na-feel na express yung sarili niya. Doon siya totoo Ganun yung pagkaano niya sa sarili niya. So we should respect that. But kung hindi naman tayo sa first name basis, they, using they, them, their, ganyan, is traditional gender-neutral pronoun. Lastly, you'll mess up at times. Breathe, apologize, ask guidance for yourself. Accidentally assume someone's label, having a conversation about someone who is trans or non-binary and intentionally use the wrong pronoun. It happens. Don't panic. Apologize and correct yourself with something along the lines of, I'm sorry, that wasn't the word I meant to use. I'm trying to be a better ally and learn the right terminology. But I'm still working on it. If you hear me misuse something, I'd really appreciate if you could let me know. Likely, the person you're talking to will know that this process of unlearning is new to you and will appreciate your honesty and effort. So, tao lang tayo, walang perfect, nagkakamali tayo, okay lang yon. And lahat naman siya matutunan natin at times, so okay lang na magkamali tayo, ay nabagit natin yung ganyan, yung mga unconscious na nabanggit natin yung pronoun supposed to be hindi dapat, or na mali yung pronoun na label natin siya sa maling pronoun, ayos lang yon. Pwede naman tayong mag-sorry at sabihin, nagtututo pa, or nalilito ka pa, ganyan. But you should do it nicely. And I have this quote by Yang Gatchalian saying, if being homosexual is not sickness, there is nothing to repair. This statement is about the reparative therapy. So kung walang mali sa pagkatao ng isang LGBTQ, kung walang mali, hindi masama, hindi sakit, walang kailangang baguhin. So reparative therapy indeed, or conversion therapy, is no help. I hope you learn a lot about the LGBTQIA community and the challenges and issues they still face today. This is the end of my talk, and before I officially end this, I just wanted to tell those LGBTQIA+ out there, I just wanted to tell you to keep in mind that there is nothing wrong with your authentic selves. And to our participants, we do hope that after this talk, you'll consider yourself to be an ally. We are not forcing you to do so, since at the end of the day, you have your own minds and we cannot tell you what to do. Let me reiterate the quotation said by Barbara Gittings. Equality means more than passing laws. The struggle is really won in the hearts and minds of the community, where it really counts. Again, we are not forcing you to be an ally, because that's for you to decide. But we are hoping that we inspire you enough to support LGBTQIA+ people. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that interesting talk about the overview on LGBTQIA+ community, as well as the existing challenges and issues in the LGBTQIA+ community and their impact. We acquired lots of knowledge from you. And let me highlight what our speaker has said. There is nothing wrong with our authentic self. Truly, we should be a safe space for people to come out, proud and loud. And to our dear participants, you can now post your questions in the chat box, or you can unmute your microphones and ask your queries about the topic.
For our reminders, we only have 10 minutes to entertain your questions, so please type your queries now in our chat box. Sa ating mga viewers sa YouTube Live, you can also post your questions in the comment section. Okay, we have here from Mr. Earl Marshall Kaingkoy. How do I make myself approachable to people who are LGBTQIA+? Okay, let me repeat the question. How do I make myself more approachable to people who are LGBTQIA+?
So to make yourself approachable to people who are LGBTQIA+, first, dapat hindi open ka dun sa topic or comfortable ka dun sa topic ng about sexual orientation and gender identity. Kasi of course, in the very first place, paano sila mag-open kung hindi ka nakikinig? Kung pag nagkakaroon ng talk about sexual orientation or gender identity, sinashut off mo yun or hindi mo pinag-uusapan. So dapat para maging approachable ka sa LGBTQIA+, open ka or comfortable ka sa topics related sa sexual orientation and gender identity. And iparamdam mo sa kanila na nandyan ka lang, na pwede kang sabihan, and hindi mo sila huhusgahan, natanggap mo sila, at gano'n.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Manalo. And thank you, Mr. Earl Marshall Kaingkoy, for posing that question. I hope the speaker clearly answered your question.
Pa po ba tayong questions? You can still post your questions at our chat box. Okay, our second question is up. In my childhood years, I often heard my playmates saying lalambot-lambot, bakla as a tease. As an adult now and probably become a teacher someday, how can I handle children who are using that phrase as a tease or as an insult? Ms. Claire?
Okay. So kasi 'di ba nasanay tayo, narinig ko rin 'yan before, yung mga ganyang tease na lalambot-lambot bakla. Pero kasi sinasabi ng iba kaya hindi sinasaway na hayaan mo na bata lang 'yan. Pero for me kasi hindi dapat gano'n. Kasi mali 'yun, yung pagsasabi na in the very first place hindi naman lahat nga kagaya ng sabi sa tao kanina, hindi naman lahat ng lalambot-lambot bakla. So hindi 'yun stereotypes kasi 'yun. So, kailangan itama natin yung mga bata sa pagsasabi sa umpisa pa lang. Kasi yung mga ganong pag-uugali or yung mga ganon, kinakalakihan nila yun eh. So, kung di natin itatama yung mali nilang ginagawa, paano nila matututunan kung ano yung dapat gawin. Yun.
Okay, I hope the query is clarified. Do we still have more questions?
Okay, another question from Mr. Earl Marshall Kaingkoy. Sabi niya, why should we be an ally?
So, bago ko sagutin yung tanong na yun, may I ask sa mga participants, sino sa inyo yung may kilala na part ng LGBTQIA? May mga kaibigan, loved ones na part ng LGBTQIA. Can you please raise your hand? How about the others? Wala po ba kayong kilala na part ng LGBTQIA?
Seven participants raised their hand.
Ayan. So, ang very first reason kung why should you be an ally is to support family members, friends, or yung mga kilala natin na part ng LGBTQIA+. Ayaw ba natin, don't we want to see them na nakakakuha ng opportunity katulad ng nakukuha ng heterosexual and cisgender people? To yung matreat sila na fair katulad ng pag-treat sa mga heterosexual and cisgender. So, kasi sa pagiging ally, ganyan.
May questions pa po ba tayo? I think wala na po tayong questions. Since we have no questions posed, let's end our question and answer here. I am sure our presenter has clarified the questions of our participants. But before we proceed to the second speaker, let's first have a 3-minute break. Okay, welcome again. Nandyan pa po ba ang ating participants? Kung nandyan pa po, please send us a heart reaction or heart emoji po sa chat box. Okay, I see those heart reactions coming up. Again, we want to extend our deepest gratitude to Miss Marie Claire Manalo for being here with us this afternoon, lending an informative presentation. To award the certificate, may I call on Miss Maxine Norada.
Thank you. To formally award the certificate, let me read you the content. Philippine Normal University, South Luzon, the National Center for Teacher Education, the Technology and Livelihood Education Hub, Certificate of Recognition. The certificate is proudly presented to Marie Claire D. Manalo for sharing her expertise as resource speaker in the webinar entitled Webinar Series, Being LGBTQIA+ in the Philippines, Challenges, Rights, and Empowerment for Gender Sensitivity and Equity. Given this 3rd day of August 2022, signed by Professor Cyrene C. Osanya, our NSTP coordinator, Professor Mark Joshua Hagosohos, our NSTP 12 part-time faculty, and our Dean for Academics and TLE, Dr. Amor F. Lunisa. Once again, this certificate of recognition is awarded to Miss Marie Claire D. Manalo.
Let's give her a virtual round of applause. Okay, looks like our participants are so enthusiastic about our topic, right, partner?
Yes, partner. It is very evident on their participation.
Don't worry, as we can give you more. Brace yourselves as we introduce our second speaker for today. Miss Lladonez, please do the honor.
Our speaker is a native from Lopez, Quezon. With great enthusiasm and educational strengthening, he finished his elementary education at Don Emilio Salumbides Elementary School with honors. In 2010, he finished his secondary education at Lopez National Comprehensive High School, and in 2014, he graduated at Philippine Normal University, South Luzon campus with a degree in Bachelor of Elementary Education, a cum laude graduate, has citation in internship, service, and citation in research. In 2019, he finished Master in Educational Management at Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Open University Lopez campus. He was the 2016 champion for Division Mathematical Blog Designing Teachers category in DepEd Quezon, 2018 Certificate for Regional Training of Teachers on Critical Content of Mathematics for DepEd Calabarzon. He was a 2020 finalist Best Research Paper and Unified Research Conference National Level, and a 2021 first runner-up Municipal Scrapbook Making Contest in Lopez, Quezon. He started his teaching career in DepEd Lopez West on July 13, 2015. His first teaching assignment was in Gites Elementary School as a grade 5 teacher. In 2018, he transferred to Matinique Elementary School, and at present, he is a subject teacher in mathematics for grades 4, 5, and 6. He is the District Adopted School and District Information Coordinator of Lopez, Quezon. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. John Joseph Marceliana.
Let us give him a virtual round of applause. Mr. Marceliana, do you want to say something to our participants before we start, sir?
Is my audio clear? Am I audible?
Yes po.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to our Masters of Ceremonies, Miss Mary Rose Macabuhay, and the other one is, I forgot the name. Yung nagpakilala sa akin, si Ma'am... what's the name again?
Alyssa Lladonez.
Oh, Ma'am Alyssa, thank you very much for that comprehensive introduction about myself or about me. Like what I said kanina din, dun sa, yung sa video ko na papalabas mamaya, I'm very honored to be to be invited as your speaker for this afternoon. Actually, this is my second time. I was also here in the NSTP last year, but it was actually a different topic. So sabi ko, taon-taon na lang ata ako na-invite ng PNU. But I'm not complaining. This is a great endeavor for me to again give you ideas, give you knowledge regarding this topic, which is really close to my heart, being LGBTQIA plus in the Philippines. As you can see, I'm actually wearing a rainbow shirt. Hindi ko alam kung nakikita ninyo, but it actually states here, be visible. Yun, be visible. So everyone should be visible regardless of gender. Kumbaga, hindi naman porke straight or porke part ng LGBTQIA+ ay hindi dapat maging visible. Everyone should be visible. LGBTQ rights are human rights. Like what I said, everyone's right. Lahat tayo mayroong karapatan. Hindi lamang yung straight, hindi lamang yung LGBT. So my respect to the Dean for Academics and Technology and Livelihood Education, Dr. Amor F. Lonisa, to the OIC Director of Finance and Administration Engineer, Dan De V. Suryo, Director of Office and Student Services, Dr. Lucila Iscleto, to the Executive Director and Provost, Dr. Leia Amor S. Cortez, to the NSTP Coordinator, Professor Cyrene Osenia, and also as well as to your subject or to your course advisor, Sir Joshua Hagusohos. Sir, thank you again for the invitation. Again, good afternoon to everyone and binabati ko na agad kayo for the successful event na ginagawa natin ngayon. So I guess we need to keep the ball rolling. Simulan na natin yung discussion about the being LGBTQ plus in the Philippines. Again, thank you very much and good afternoon.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for that wonderful message and thank you din po. So to our dear participants, are you all now ready for our second presentation? Let us know by tapping a heart reaction or you can utilize our chat box. Okay, please send a heart emoji if you are excited and ready to gain insights from our second speaker.
May I add something?
Yes, sir.
After my presentation, I will be asking questions. And those questions you will be rewarded. I'll be sending GCash amounts to those people who will answer it correctly. So yun, be attentive in listening to the presentation. So again, thank you very much.
Wow, thank you very much for that incentive, sir. Okay, dear participants, I am now seeing heart reactions from our participants. So by that, let us now proceed to the talk of Mr. Marceliana about LGBTQIA+ empowerment in the Philippines.
A pleasant afternoon to each and everyone who is part of this webinar. The same goes to those who are watching this FB Live. It is an honor to be chosen as your resource speaker this afternoon to talk about the topic being LGBTQIA+ in the Philippines, challenges, rights, and empowerment for gender sensitivity and equity. For NSTP Program 12, for your information, this is actually the second time that I was invited to be your speaker for NSTP. Last year, I was also here, but it was actually a different topic. So right now, this topic about the community of LGBTQIA+ is very close to my heart. Now, to go further, let me first introduce myself. I am John Joseph Elmer Soliana, a Master in Educational Management graduate. Well, I'm not really famous with this kind of name. Most of my friends and also my colleagues, they actually call me Teacher JJ, and also that's my Facebook account name. So yeah, my full name, if you're going to meet me, it's John Joseph. I'm elementary grade teacher for 7 years. I actually started year 2015. I'm the District Adopted School Coordinator, I'm the District Information Coordinator, and I'm also the Lopez West District's Mathematics President. And what I have here actually a quotation, and it actually states that there is no gender in success and careers have no gender. So whatever gender that you have, you can actually become successful in the future. So let's get started. Before I start with my presentation, I'd like you to watch this video that I got from YouTube via GMA Succeed.
Samantala, hate crime, ganyan daw dapat tignan ng mga otoridad ang kaso ng pagpatay kay Jennifer Laude. Ayon sa grupong Ang Ladlad. Saksi si Ivan Mayrina.
Hindi pa raw sapat ang mga impormasyon sa ngayon kung dahil nga sa hate crime ang pagpatay kay Jeffrey o Jennifer Laude. Pero para sa grupo Ang Ladlad, hindi raw yan dapat maisantabi bilang simpleng pagpatay o kaya mabaon sa isyu ng kasunduang pangmilitar ng Pilipinas at Amerika.
May kaakibat na galit o pagkamuhi doon sa gender identity or sexual orientation ng tao. Kasi magkasama sila, inimbita siya, nagkita sila sa isang bar, pumasok pa sa isang lodge-in, tapos yung way ng pagpaslang sa kanya na sinakal siya at maaring naihampas pa yung kanyang ulo doon sa inidoro, tapos doon na lamang siya iniwan ng ganun-ganun na lamang matapos siyang gamitin.
Ang treatment natin sa kanila ay victim. We don't treat them kung ano man sila, anong gender nila. Sa ngayon, ang biktima ay isang Pilipino at ang suspect natin ay isang sundalo ng miyembro dun sa US Armed Forces. So, sundin natin kung anong nararapat sa batas.
Bago pa kasi si Jennifer, ilang kaso na rin ng karumal-dumal na pagpatay sa mga bading ang naiulat sa mga nakalipas na buwan. Pero hindi kasama mga yan sa mahigit 150 kaso ng pagpatay sa tala ng LGBT Hate Crime Watch mula 1996 hanggang 2012.
Sana naman tignan ng malaliman kasi karamihan ng mga kaso ng pagpaslang dinidismiss lamang nila bilang mere cases of robbery. Yung mga pagnanakaw lang o kaya hindi daw nagkasundo sa bayaran. Yung mga ganun. So nakakasakit para sa amin at nakakainsulto doon sa aming hanay.
Paano pa yung mga gaya ni Edmund Petilla ng Nueva Vizcaya na binuhusan ng kumukulong tubig ng sariling ama dahil hindi matanggap na bading siya at 2 pang anak? O kahit yung mga ordinaryong bading, lesbiana, bisexual o transgender na madalas hamakin o di naintindihan ng lipunan ang kasarian.
The fact na she goes by the name Jennifer, ibig sabihin, nabubuhay na siya bilang babae. My mother's always been told na, you know, your daughter, something's wrong with her. I think you should bring her to a psychiatrist or something, or I think na dapat agapan natin.
Matagal na ngang isinusulong ng Anladlad ng mga batas at polisiya ang magbibigay proteksyon sa mga LGBT. Pero para sa isang political scientist, dapat daw magsimula mismo sa publiko ang pagbabago ng pananaw.
There has to be some more and more awareness of this emerging issue of hate crimes against the LGBT community because it is a serious problem.
Kaya mga estudyante na nag-candlelight vigil kanina, nanawagan ng pagtanggap at pantay na pagtingin ng lipunan sa LGBT community. Higit sa lahat, hustisya, hindi lang kay Jennifer kundi sa mga biktima ng diskriminasyon. Mga karapatang wala raw dapat pinipiling kasarian. Ako si Ivan Mayrina, ang inyong saksi.
So even though nangyari yung incidenteng ito year 2014 pa, it is really disheartening to see that a member of the LGBTQIA+ was actually killed or murdered. You know, this is not the first time it actually happened. It also happened in the past pa rin. And it can also happen in the present if we're not going to understand the rights of the LGBTQIA+ people. And the reason why we are here is for us to talk about the rights, you know, our rights. No, it doesn't mean na ikaw ay straight na hindi mo dapat malaman yung kanilang rights. I know naman na lahat tayo may kaibigang miyembro ng LGBTQIA+. And kung kaibigan natin sila, why not educate ourselves to also know their rights and how to empower them so that if they're going to experience another kind of incident na binubuli sila or dinidiscriminate sila, maaari tayong gumawa ng way para maiwasan yon o para at least maitama yung isipin ng ibang tao. So as we go through this presentation, I'm going to talk about the objectives. So they are: number 1, to identify the challenges faced by LGBTQIA+ individuals in the Philippines. So I highlighted the challenges. Recognize the existing LGBTQIA+ rights in the country. So we're going to talk about the rights. And the last one is to promote LGBTQIA+ empowerment to achieve gender sensitivity and equity. So let's talk about first the challenges faced by our mga kapatid. So I'm going to talk about different sectors na nafe-face ng ating mga kapatid. So we're going to talk about the government, the employment, the religion, the media, the politics, as well as the school. So ano-ano nga ba yung mga challenge na nararanasan ng mga miyembro ng LGBTQIA+. So unahin natin ang government. In the government, it states that they barely provide funding in workforce for LGBTQIA+ individuals, considering some have very poor standards of living. So I'm not actually generalizing the government. Of course, there are some, let's say LGU, who are actually supporting the community, but not all. Let's have this kind of idea. It's not nationwide, but at least there are some LGUs who are actually trying their best to create jobs for the community that we are into. The government should contribute to the well-being of the LGBTQ+ community by providing equal rights, especially the marriage equality. So as of the moment, we don't have actually a law na pumapayag ng same-sex marriage. So yeah, as of the moment, wala tayong ganun. But hopefully in the future, sana naman mapagdesisyonan ng gobyerno. Next is we have for employment. So ano nga ba yung nararanasan dito ng ating mga kapatid? The community encounters distinctive challenges in both private and public enterprises. So hindi lamang sa public nakaka-experience ng bullying or discrimination ang ating mga kapatid, but also in private enterprises, iba't ibang uri ng diskriminasyon ang kanilang mga nararanasan. So ito nga yung mga sumusunod. Recruitment officers telling transgender women that they will be hired if they presented themselves as males. So it also goes to other gender na kapag present mo yung sarili mo kung ano ka ba, kung ikaw ba'y babae o lalaki, tsaka ka ma-accept sa trabaho, which is very wrong. It actually discriminates us for expressing our gender. Next is LGBTQIA+ persons in some cases are assigned to graveyard shifts in their jobs as it is assumed that they have no family to go to. So isa to sa mga nakakasakit pakinggan na lalo na siguro nangyayari to sa mga trabaho like call center na inilalagay sila sa graveyard shifts. So when we talk about graveyard shifts, for you to have an idea, ito yung mga shifts na ang oras ng pagpasok ay yung mga alanganing oras ng gabi ha. Let's say 10 o'clock or maaga pa yun, mga 11 o'clock to 12 a.m., mga ganong oras. So nakakalungkot na ina-assume nila na wala naman tayong pamilyang pupuntahan. So doon tayo ilalagay sa ganong alanganing oras. Next is they also deny for maternity leave. So, even though we actually have a different gender naman, iba-iba tayo, pero at least naman bigyan tayo ng karapatan for maternity leave, especially those na, syempre, meron tayong mga kapatid na nagbubuntis, even though they are part of the third sex. Give them maternity leaves, give them paternity leaves, because everyone deserves to have that kind of right. Next, let's talk about religion. So ito, isa rin sa topic na, of course, we need to face it. This is actually the truth about the challenges we face. For religion, it is in a certain survey, 80% of the population in the Philippines, in our country, belongs to Roman Catholic Church. In several instances, lawmakers are also church leaders, so we cannot deny that. So here's the situation. In 2006, the chairperson of the Committee on Human Rights of the House of Representatives, a Baptist pastor, was against the anti-discrimination law. So let's give the anti-discrimination law is actually a bill na ilang beses nang ipinasa sa Kongreso or sa gobyerno natin pero hindi makapasa-pasa. So yeah, there are some instances talaga na ang mga nakaupo ay part of the church but I'm actually not saying in general, merong iba lang Because naman, meron naman tayong mga kasama din naman, let's say, an ally from the religion na sumusuporta sa community natin. So, hindi naman lahat. So, nagkakataon lang talaga na minsan, they are actually against the anti-discrimination law for our community. Okay, so next is in media. So, ano nga ba yung nagiging challenge or the kind of discrimination that we face in media? So here is the situation. In 2004, so 18 years ago, after an entertainment program aired a wedding ceremony of two women, a memorandum was released that warned against the positive depictions of same-sex relationships. So even though it actually happened in some countries at napalabas sa television natin, nagbaba ng memorandum ang ating gobyerno na nagbabawal sa atin, because it's actually a positive depiction of same-sex relationship. So, sabi ko nga, wala naman tayo talagang law na nagpapatunay o nagsasabi na pwedeng magpakasal ang dalawang lalaki, ang dalawang babae, or kung anong gender ang pwede. Diba? So, yeah, this is still a kind of discrimination or a challenge for the LGBTQIA+ community. Next, let's talk about in politics. So it is disheartening that many of the LGBTQIA people holding elected posts do not advocate for their own community issues. So even though may mga nai-elect naman noong una na miyembro ng LGBTQIA+, still hindi ganun kalakas yung pag-advocate nila for our community. Pero there is actually a note here. However, there have been successful efforts to promote LGBTQIA+ rights in the political sector as time moves on. So sa ngayon naman, dumadami ang miyembro ng ating komunidad na nagiging part ng government at gumagawa sila ng paraan para mapalakas o mabigyang halaga ang ating rights. Next, let's talk about the school. So, the last sector. So, nangyari lang ito this year. The 4 graduating senior high school trans women had prohibited from taking parts in their respective graduation marches because of their long hair and dress code in their school. So, we cannot deny the fact naman na lahat ng paaralan may kanya-kanya talagang guidelines na sinusunod. So, hindi rin natin sila masisisi sa isang banda. Pero, sana mabigyang halaga yung pagbibigay ng rights sa miyembro ng LGBTQIA+. Kaya nga meron tayong gender and development or GOD para at least mabigyan talaga ng pansin yung mga pangangailangan natin. So in the memorandum dated June 23, nito lang, the DepEd NCR Director Wilfredo Cabral reiterated the department's gender-positive basic education policy intended to promote gender equality, equity, and sensitivity at the basic education level. So, salamat kay Director dahil nagbaba siya ng memorandum na dapat naman talaga bigyan natin ng pansin yung gender response natin sa basic education. So, maraming salamat po. And for that, they were actually given or they were given the chance to graduate having their gender expression. So here are the 9 related stressors that I actually got from the internet or from other resources. So isa pa to sa mga challenges na nafe-face ng ating community. Number 1 is finding or building a supportive community. Napakahirap pero marami na ngayon ang may mga community for us, for the LGBTQIA+. So hanap tayo at tayo mag-join. Number 2 is the coming out process. Isa to sa pinakamahirap talagang gawin. Pero kapag nalaman mo na sa sarili mo talaga yung gusto mo at sinusuportahan ka ng mga taong nakapaligid sa'yo, then it will actually be easy for you to come out. Number 3 is understanding your identity. So if you are having a hard time understanding your identity, consult it with the people you trust, consult it with the community that you are part of, and also read books, read a lot of references para at least ma-identify mo yung sarili mo kaagad. Number 4 is worrying about others' reactions to coming out or changes in your relationship status, don't be afraid to come out to your friends, especially your family. Kasi kapag nag-come out ka, even though hindi sila agad, may mga gano'n naman, hindi nila agad matatanggap yun sa umpisa. Pero through time naman, they will actually accept you and they will embrace you full-heartedly. Number 5 is the tension in family relationships. So, hindi to maiiwasan, but like what I said, through time, mababago rin naman yun. Number 6 is finding and engaging with romantic and sexual partners. So, yeah, it's actually also part of. Number 7 is discrimination and internalized oppression. Number 8 is loneliness or isolation. And number 9 is unhealthy coping strategies. If you're experiencing these 9 related stressors, of course, huwag sarilihin, humanap ng taong pinagkakatiwalaan para masabi ninyo yung nararanasan at nararamdaman ninyo. You can consult your friends, your family, or the community that you are part of para at least maiwasan to. So yeah, these are the 9 related stressors faced by the LGBTQIA+ people. So we're done with the challenges faced by the LGBTQIA+ individuals. Now let's talk about the rights. So ano nga ba yung mga rights natin? So as you can see here on the left side, it is said that LGBTQ rights are human rights. And everyone's right is actually human rights. So wala naman sa gender ang pagkakameron ng rights. So according to Harvey Milk, it takes no compromise to give people their rights. It takes no money to respect the individual. It takes no political deal to give people freedom. It takes no survey to remove oppression. Unquote. So ang ganda ng sinabi ni Milk. Talaga namang hindi naman kailangan ng pera para magbigay ng respeto sa ibang tao or sa lahat ng taong nakakasalamuha natin. The same way na wala naman sa politika ang pagbibigay ng kalayaan sa isa't isa. So let us accept each other wholeheartedly and be genuinely happy for each other. And that's a kind of right, a kind of respect that we give to people. So as we go through the topic LGBTQ+ rights, we're going to talk about this one. This is very important. It should be noted, dapat nating malaman that in the Philippines, there are no national laws protecting people from abuse or discrimination based on one's SOGI. SOGI stands for Sexual Orientation, Gender Identity, and Expression. So dapat nating malaman na wala talagang national law na nagpoprotekta sa pagdi-discriminate sa one SOGI, sa ating SOGI. However, there are few cities and provinces that have local ordinances against gender-based discrimination. The problem can be really rooted to the people's lack of understanding of SOGI. So even though there are no national laws, meron tayong mga ordinansa sa iba't ibang syudad or probinsya ng Pilipinas na merong ordinansa na pumoprotekta sa gender and sexual orientation ng mga miyembro ng ating komunidad. Pero nakakalungkot na there are no national laws. So, huwag mawala ng pag-asa. Maybe in the future, masabatas yung anti-discrimination law. Hoping. So as we move on with the topic, please don't hate, rather educate. So if you meet someone who is actually against the community, please say to them that they should not hate the community, but rather they should be educated to understand who we are as a person. So we're going to talk about laws regarding same-sex sexual activity, gender expression, adoption, discrimination protections, local government ordinances, and anti-bullying laws. So ito yung mga mapag-uusapan natin as we go through the topic about rights. Okay, there's another note here. Sabi ko nga, since there are no national laws, some of the rights are always legal in most of the Philippines. Marawi City and Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao are transitioning to separate judicial and legal system. So in short, some of the rights are not nationwide and is pending nationwide. So specifically in Marawi and Bangsamoro, since they are transitioning to another judicial and legal system, they have different laws, they have different ordinances. Let's talk about laws regarding same-sex sexual activity. So non-commercial, consensual sexual activity between two people of the same sex in private is never constitutionally criminalized in the country, although sexual conduct or affection that occurs in public may be subject to grave scandal prohibition in Article 200 of the Revised Penal Code. So, pwede naman, but in private. So, nakalagay in private. Now, if you're going to do that in public, it may be subject to a grave scandal. So, next is gender expression. So, ito yung napagdaanan nung kanina nating tinopic about the challenge in the school. So, how do we express our gender? LGBTQIA+ individuals can publicly express or present their gender. This can include behavior and outward appearance such as dress, hair, makeup, body language, and voice. A person's chosen name and pronoun are also common ways of expressing gender. Others perceive a person's gender through these attributes. So, yeah, especially the pronoun. So I identify myself, kung ako yun, I identify myself as he or him even though I am part of the community. So nasa sa atin kung ano ba yung gagamitin natin for our pronouns or for our chosen name. So pwede mo namang baguhin kung saan ka mas komportable. That is how you express your gender. And also in your appearance. If you want to have a long hair, if you want to dress a cloth that you're comfortable with, then you can actually do it because you are expressing your gender. But it should be noted that it's not nationwide and it is pending nationwide. So there are some places in the Philippines na hindi talaga pumapayag na magsuot o baguhin yung pangalan nila. So for adoption, same-sex couples may not file for joint adoption given that same-sex unions is not recognized under the law. So dahil nga hindi pinapayagan yung same-sex relationship or marriage, still you cannot file for a joint adoption with your partner. However, according to the eligibility requirements which govern Philippine domestic adoption, there are no explicit laws that bar LGBTQ+ individuals from adopting children. So, meron pa rin naman tayong rights single, as a single member of LGBTQIA+, we can still adopt. We can still adopt. So that's not nationwide and that's pending nationwide. Discrimination protection. So even though we don't have the law for anti-discrimination for our community, we have naman the Magna Carta for Public Social Workers that addresses concerns regarding the discrimination of public social workers because of their sexual orientation. So this is under Section 17, Rights of a Public Social Worker. So this is very important, especially those who are graduating from college na rin here in your university should know that you can actually have your rights for the Magna Carta for Public Social Workers once that you are already part of the government or in private entities. So ano-ano nga ba yung mga rights na yun? Number 1 is the protection from discrimination on the grounds of sex, sexual orientation, age, political or religious beliefs, civil status, physical characteristics or disability, or ethnicity. And number 2 is the protection from any form of interference, intimidation, harassment, or punishment to include but not limited to arbitrary reassignment or termination of service in the performance of his or her duties and responsibilities. So if you want to know your right, kapag kayo ay nadi-discriminate in your workplace, please go to the Magna Carta for Public Social Workers. Next, let's talk about the local government ordinances. So like what I said, may mga ordinansa naman talaga sa iba't ibang lugar. So in the Philippines, there are 8 provinces that prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. So in those provinces, magkaiba yung ordinansa nila for sexual orientation and for gender identity. So kumbaga nahahati talaga sa dalawa. Pero ito yung 8 provinces na magkasama. Meron silang ordinance for both the sexual orientation and gender identity. So these are Albay in the year 2022, I mean rather. So this year. Agusan del Norte, year 2014. Bataan, last year, 2021. Batangas, 2015. Cavite, 2014 to 2018. The Dinagat Islands, 2016, Ilocos Sur, 2017, and Iloilo, year 2016. So it should be noted the province of Cavite previously prohibited discrimination based on sexual orientation only. So ito na nga yung meron silang ordinansa pero nakafocus lang sa sexual orientation. But they enacted gender identity protections in 2018 kung kaya't napasama sila dito sa 8 provinces na nagpoprotekta sa ating mga kapatid sa komunidad. Bigyan ko kayo ng visual for you to see or kung gaano nga ba kalawak yung ordinansa na nagpoprotekta sa rights ng ating mga kapatid. So here is the map of the Philippines sa right side. So the map of provinces, cities, municipalities, and barangays in the Philippines that have sexual orientation or gender identity protection. So yung color violet, yun yung 8 provinces na merong ordinance for both sexual orientation and gender identity. Now the blue color, if you can see, I don't see any blue color here. So those are the places that has or that have ordinances for sexual orientation only, pero wala. And gray does not protect sexual orientation and gender identity. So as you can see the map, so mostly or halos lahat talaga ay colored gray pa. So those places do not have ordinances for both sexual orientation and gender identity. Alam ko. But I'm always hoping naman that in the near future, there will always, these places naman will also have their ordinances, and as a whole, as a country, meron tayo ng anti-discrimination law for the LGBTQIA+. Now, let's move on to anti-bullying law. So, paano nga ba kapag nabubuli ang isang miyembro ng ating komunidad? We can actually use the anti-bullying law or the sexual orientation and gender identity that includes the grounds of bullying in the implementing rules and regulations or the IRR. So this is the Republic Act number 10627 or the anti-bullying law approved by the Congress in 2013. So it explicitly refers to gender-based bullying, which is described as any act that humiliates or excludes a person based on perceived or actual sexual orientation and gender identity. So we can actually use this law if we are experiencing bullying in a workplace or outside. So here is a summary table for you to understand the rights that we have in the Philippines or in our country. So for the same-sex sexual activity legality or for the legal, it's always legal, like what I said, in most parts of the Philippines, but not in Marawi City and Bangsamoro since they have a different judicial and legal system. For the equal age of consent, so always equal, anti-discrimination laws in employment, anti-discrimination laws in provision of goods, services, anti-discrimination laws in all other areas, including indirect discrimination, hate speech, not nationwide, and is pending nationwide. For same-sex marriages, still it's not recognized in the country. Recognition of same-sex couples, still it's pending. Step-child adoption by same-sex couple, not recognized. Joint adoption by same-sex couples, not recognized. Adoption by single parent regardless of sexual orientation. Like what I said, there's no specific law precluding single LGBT adoption. However, for the legal, LGBT adopters may be considered unfit to adopt if authorities decide that their sexual orientation or activity means that they are not of good moral character. So tinitingnan pa din yung good moral character bago makapag-adopt. gay, lesbian, and bisexual people allowed to serve in the military? Yes, we are actually allowed to join the military since 2009. So maganda rin namang balita ito na pinapayagan na nilang makasali ang miyembro ng LGBTQIA+ sa ating military. Freedom of gender identity expression. So yes, it's not criminalized in the Philippines generally, but no, non-confirming gender expression illegal in Manalo City since 2004. Like what I said, for the gender expression, you cannot express your gender in some place in the Philippines because it is a non-confirming gender expression. And still, those rights that are not recognized in the country are the following. Right to change legal gender, of course. Conversion therapy ban on minors. Automatic parenthood for both spouses after birth. Access to IVF for lesbian. Commercial surrogacy for male couples. And MSM stands for men having sex with men. Allowed to donate blood. They are not allowed to donate blood, so that's not recognized in the country. So even though we talked about the rights that we have for the LGBTQIA+ community, still meron naman tayong rights talaga, but hindi siya ganun kalawak at hindi din ganun ka-strong. But like what I always say in the presentation, we are actually hoping na in the future there will be a law protecting our community and mas lalong magiging strong yung ordinansa sa lahat ng lugar dito sa Pilipinas. So we're done with the last topic, which is the LGBTQIA+ empowerment. So as we go through with the presentation, we're going to find out how to accept yourself as a member of the LGBTQIA+, and how to empower LGBTQ youth through inclusive practices. So we're talking about being an ally here. So let's proceed with how to accept yourself as LGBTQIA+ individual. So as we go through this topic, we're going to talk about the method number 1, which is processing your emotions. Number 2 is embracing your sexuality. And the last method number 3, expressing your sexual identity. So for method number 1, this is very important. If you are not yet coming out to the public, then you should actually process your emotions. Number 1 is look for answers to the questions you have about your sexuality. Like what I said, educate yourself to know yourself better. Number 2 is keep a journal to help you work through your feelings. So this is very important, though it's actually optional, but you can use it para mas lalong maintindihan yung sarili mo. Why not have a journal and then write your emotions in that journal so that as you go through time, mas lalo mong maintindihan yung sarili mo. Next is talk to someone you trust when you are struggling if possible. Like what I always say, wag sarilinin ang problema. If you are having a hard time processing your emotions, then go to people you trust, your family, your friends, or the community that you are part of, and ask for some advice. Next is recognize that you are normal and that you can live a very happy life. Everyone is normal. We are all normal and we deserve to have a happy life of our own. Even though sometimes we experience challenges, but that's actually part of the game. Next is give yourself as much time as you need to labor your sexuality. I am here not to say that you have to rush everything and come out to your family after this presentation. No, you have to give yourself a time to process your emotions, and then if you're done, if okay ka na, then that's the time you're going to come out to your friends or to your family. And the last one is see a therapist if you're having trouble processing your emotions. This is also optional, but I am actually encouraging you, if you are having a hard time trying to understand yourself, you're having problem expressing your emotions, then that's the time you're going to have or to seek a therapist para at least matulungan ka i-process yung emotion mo. So like what I said, this is the method number 1 on how you are going to process your emotions. Next is method number 2, embracing your sexuality. After processing your emotions, then that's the time that you're going to embrace your sexuality. So how do we embrace our sexuality? Number one is release self-judgment to find peace within yourself. You can actually judge yourself. You can judge yourself every day na, tama ba itong ginawa ko? Nasa tamang daan ba ako? O, yeah, you can, at least you are the one judging yourself and not other people. Next is attend a pro-LGBTQ+ event to help you feel positive about your sexuality. Why not try to attend some LGBTQ+ event para at least matulungan ka din na maintindihan mas lalo yung sexualidad mo. Next is build a support network of people who build you up. Of course, this is very important. You need to find a community that will support you or a group of friends who will support you for being who you are. Minimize your times you spend with people who don't accept you. Of course, if natotoxican ka na, kasama yung mga taong hindi ka naman naiintindihan, then that's the time that you make yourself unavailable to those people. Learn to let go and to move on. Follow social media accounts that feature pro-LGBTQ+ content. So, marami nito sa internet. Pero please also just go to sites that are authentic. Those sites that are also good in morals. So, marami kasing naglilipa na sa internet na minsan hindi ka aya-aya. So, just go to those places that will lift your morale. And the last one is enjoy pro-LGBTQ+ movies, TV shows, and books. So, as of the moment, I'm actually also one of those people who are enjoying movies, series, and the books. So, yeah, for you to embrace your sexuality, you need to do these 6 steps. And the last one, the last method is to express your sexuality or your sexual identity. So after processing your emotion and embracing your sexuality, that's the time you're going to express. So dito ka na magka-come out. So come out to friends and family when you're ready. Be yourself and ignore the stereotypes. Participate in Pride Month events to celebrate who you are. And the last one is participate in pro-LGBTQ+ activism if you feel ready. So congratulations if you have reached this method number 3, because once you understand yourself, that's the time you become confident about who you are as a person. That's the time you are powerful. Now let's move on to empower LGBTQ youth through inclusive practices. So this is an ally. You're becoming an ally. So even though you're not part of the community, if you have friends from that community, become an ally and educate people who still do not understand those who are part of our community. So as we go through this topic, we're going to talk about how to educate, ask questions, listen, affirm, promote representation, and shut down anti-LGBTQ behavior. Let's talk about educate. So how do we educate those people? Make an effort to learn more about the rich history and diversity of the LGBTQIA+ community. Have resources available that cover a range of topics from current issues facing the community to the best way to respond when someone comes out to you. So it is very important, like what I said, that you educate yourself so that you know better. Next is ask questions. Don't let fears of saying the wrong thing keep you from doing the right thing. Many people regret their initial response to their child, student, or friend when they identified as LGBTQ. Take the first step by apologizing. Ask how you can change your actions or language to create a more welcoming space and follow through on what they have requested. So ask questions if you need an answer. Listen. After asking questions, then try to listen. Give kids the space to develop to use their voice. This is actually an advice from Patrick Mahoney, from CEO, Boys and Girls Club of Metro Los Angeles, and former member of the Development Committee for the Trevor Project. If you're authentic and lead with your heart, it will help kids feel that you belong and they will open up, be on standby, and ready to listen. So if people or if the community knows that you are authentic and you are genuine in supporting them, then they will actually voice out or give you some of the things that they actually felt for themselves na para at least makapag-ask ng advice mo. learn to listen. And affirm. After you listen, then affirm. Have the affirmation. It costs nothing to simply tell a young person, you are perfect just the way you are. It's probably the thing that kids most need to hear from the adults in their lives. Walang bayad yung pagsasabi ng mga ganitong affirmation sa mga taong nakapaligid sa'yo, especially those who are members of the LGBTQ+. So they actually need it the most. So when next time, if you see someone or a friend of yours, say to them that you are perfect just the way you are. You can actually say it to your classmates. So wala naman sa gender yun. So everyone deserves to have this kind of statement. You are perfect just the way you are. I remember Bruno Mars. Next is promote representation. So how do we promote representation? Support and encourage conversation around books, movies, music, and other forms of media and activities that feature LGBTQ themes and intersectional voices within the community from different racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic backgrounds. This is still according to Patrick Mahoney, and he actually shares that young people will be inspired by seeing positive LGBTQI+ role models that will promote inclusivity among their peer groups and later in life. And the last one is to shut down anti-LGBTQ behavior. Why is this important? It is important to speak out against the anti-LGBTQ remarks and behavior. So let's say there's an incident. When you see young people engage in any bullying behavior, intervene every time. When you hear friends or co-workers telling non-inclusive jokes, ask them to stop using hurtful language. Since you become an ally or you became an ally for the community, you have to shut down those anti-LGBTQ behaviors that you are seeing or hearing from other people instead of just sitting. Learn to also express yourself to those people, educate them. So this is actually an additional. These are the 10 amazing Pinoy LGBTs who broke barriers and made history. This is according to Filipinoan Facts and Figures and History, but I only got 8. So the first one is Tapar, Ilopre, and Lampino, the male babaylans who stood up against the Spaniards. So during the Spanish era pa to, but there are already some of those who are part of the community who actually fought against the Spaniards. So they are Tapar, Ilopre, and Lampino. Next is Pulong, the cross-dressing cover girl. So in his golden years, it is Lolo Pulong kept company with his gay beauticians in his neighborhood. So Lolo Pulonia, as they called him, passed away in May 1970. Next is Arsenio de Guzman, the quirky religious cult leader. So Iglesia ng Watawat ng Lahi was claimed to have been founded by Arsenio de Guzman, called as Tatay Ada, Anda, Malaki, Maria Consuelo, and Casinyong. Oh yes, he was also fond of wearing feminine attire, makeup, and painted nails. So that's the third one. The fourth one will have is Walter Markova Dempster Jr., the fisty comfort gay of 1940s. He said that this is actually very inspiring. As humans, we won't live long. He was quoted as saying, "Revealing my own story is my way of inspiring other gays who continue to be oppressed today. By my act, I may have probably given freedom to many people. There are many other gay people." The fifth one is Biniboys of Pasay, the flamboyant newsmakers of the 1950s. So to improve their image in the society, a group of transvestites sponsored their own exclusive party in Pasay in February 1957. The first ever Biniboys ball, transvestites from all over the Manila were invited to dance party, and many came in their best finery escorted by their male friends. Number 6 is Thomas Betty, the controversial pregnant man. So Thomas Betty entered the world on January 20, 1974 as a baby girl named Tracy Gondino, the child of an American mother and a father of a Filipino-Korean descent. The Betty case sparked global controversies as it was the first instance where a documented legal male gave birth within a traditional marriage, instead of a woman leading one court to challenge a marriage where the husband gave birth. Next, number 7 is Kevin Balot, the first Filipino winner of International Queen Transgender Pageant. So in 2012, a transgender from Tarlac won the first ever crown for the Philippines using her own masculine name, Kevin Balot. Miss International Queen is an annual beauty pageant for transgenders that take place in Pattaya, Thailand. Began in 2004. The contest aims to create human rights awareness among international community, especially those who are part of the LGBTQIA+ community. So as of the moment, we have 3 Filipino winners of International Queen Transgender Pageant, and this year, our representative Fuchsia Andravena actually won the title in Pattaya, Thailand. And the last one is Geraldine Roman, the first elected transgender in Congress. So in May 2016 polls, the country's first transgender politician was elected to the nation's lower house. Geraldine Jerry Roman, born 1967, came from a political family in Bataan. She grew up in Orani, where at was an early age realized that she was more of a woman than a man. So those are the 8 inspiring members of the LGBTQIA+ people or individuals. So and I do hope that they inspire us as humans or as part of the community to also become successful in the field that we have chosen. So this topic of mine, being the LGBTQ in the Philippines, is actually part of the Sustainable Development Goals or the SDG. So the goal number 5, gender equality, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Through the pledge to leave no one behind, countries have committed for the past track progress of those furthest behind. And goal 4, quality education, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And the last is goal number 10, reduce inequality. So reduce income inequality within among countries. So these are the 5 goals as sustainable development goals that are part of the topic being LGBTQ in the Philippines. So to end, I have here my own quotation, my own statement about my topic. Since I'm an educator, education is a critical area of concentration for recognizing and acknowledging that gender equality means that men, women, and LGBTQIA+ people have equal power and equal opportunity. Let us be respectful and considerate of one another. Let us collaborate regardless of gender. Thank you very much, and once again, good afternoon. So here are the references that I got from the internet. If you are going to browse all of the things that I shared to you this afternoon, so available yun lahat dito. You can copy the URL or you can just copy the topic itself. So lalabas na yun sa internet. So again, thank you very much for choosing me as your resource speaker this afternoon. Again, it's an honor and a responsibility to be given talaga this opportunity to speak to you guys. Again, thank you very much and congratulations to everyone for a successful event.
Ayan, thank you very much. It was a long presentation. I was given 45 minutes, pero 50 minutes yun. Ang hirap na niya putol-putulin. Sige, I'm actually ready for your questions na.
Okay, sir. Again, thank you po, Mr. Marceliana. That is an informative and empowering presentation. So it is good to address first the challenges faced by the LGBTQIA+ individuals in the Philippines, as from this, we're able to formulate a solution and aid in these challenges. Recognizing the rights, informing not only the members of the LGBTQ community, but the larger community as a whole. And lastly, promoting LGBTQIA+ empowerment to achieve gender sensitivity equity, and equity. I am certain that our participants are packed with knowledge from you. Again, thank you very much for that informative presentation, sir.
I agree with our speaker partner. Indeed, we can only be confident if we allow ourselves to come out and express ourselves. And to our participants, as what our speaker said, tell your friends or anyone that you are beautiful just the way you are, regardless of your gender. At this juncture, your questions will now be entertained by the speaker. Please unmute your microphone if you have some questions or type it in the chat box. While for our participants in YouTube Live, kindly type your questions in the comment section.
Sige, I'll be waiting for your questions. But if there are no questions, I'll be the one to ask the question. So I hope na nakinig ng mabuti. Alam ko yung oras natin ngayon ay piligrong oras dahil 3:00 itutulog siya. No? So I do hope na naintindihan niyo yung shinare ko. Anyway, kanina gusto kong mag-butt in dun sa mga questions na binato kanina kay Ma'am Marie Claire. Kasi parang nabanggit doon na paano kapag binubuli yung bata sa loob ng classroom. As a future teacher, how will you handle that kind of situation? So in my case here in DepEd, since I'm actually part of that DepEd for 7 years, I'd like to answer that question. Sinabi ko kanina sa presentation ko na there is a law for bullying, 'di ba? Yung anti-bullying law natin. So a kid who na nambubully sa isang kaklase niya physically and verbally, pwede siyang kasuhan ng bullying. I mean, pwede siyang i-subject for bullying. Now, sana wag nang dumaan or pumasok pa dun sa ganong legality. As teachers, what we're going to do, kausapin natin yung bata. Siguro kung ako yung tatanungin kanina, wag mo siyang kakausapin kaharap ng maraming bata. Kasi maaring mapahiya yung bata. So what you're going to do, you're going to pasimpleng i-ask yung bata na mamaya mag-uusap tayong dalawa na tayo lang. So kung hindi magkaayos yon, that's the time you're going to ask the parents to come to your school and tanungin din. Kasi hindi rin natin masisisi yung bata eh. Maybe there is something in their home na ng reason kung bakit siya nambubulihin ng ibang bata. Regardless of gender. Diba? So doon na rin papasok yung oobserbahan natin yung bata kung yun ba lagi niya ginagawa. Kumbaga dito na papasok yung tinuro sa atin sa university, yung psychology. Diba, papasukan na natin ng ganung subject na bakit kaya ganun talaga yung actions niya or yung behavior niya. So magkakameron na tayo ng mini research. It's like a qualitative research na siya yung kumbaga hindi alam ng bata na parang inoobserbahan mo at pinag-aaralan mo na siya. But in a good way na kaya mo pinag-aaralan kung bakit gano'n ang behavior niya para matulungan siya. That's not for your own sake na gagamitin mo siyang research study. No, the reason why you're doing it is for you to empower the child, di ba? Lahat tayo i-empower natin yung mga bata. I'd like to answer again the question din kanina na how will you approach someone if you are a straight person? Kanina parang nabasa ko yun kanina dito. Tama ba? How will you approach someone, a member of the LGBTQ? Like what I said, if you want to become an ally, binanggit ko yun kanina dito, you need to educate yourself. Of course, educating yourself means mas marami ka mang matututunan kung paano ba sila i-approach. Sabi nga kanina ni Ma'am Marie Claire, depende sa pronoun, no? Kasi meron tayong mga pronouns na hindi natin alam kung paano ba, ano bang itatawag natin sa kanya. Baka kasi tayo maka-hurt ng damdamin. So maganda na first name basis muna ang gagamitin natin. Tapos habang makikipag-usap tayo sa kanila, doon natin mas lalong malalaman na, okay, ganito pala siya. Dapat pala ganito yung approach ko sa kanya. Kumbaga pag nakadaupang palad mo na ang isang tao, doon mo malalaman kung ano ba yung personality niya, ano ba yung behavior niya. So yun yung first. And also, listen. and ask question. Di ba? Hindi naman sa nagmamagaling agad tayo. Of course, meron tayong mga hindi alam tungkol sa ibang tao. So ask question. Kumbaga ay tanungin mo, magpaka-honest ka. Kasi sabi nga, if you are authentic, di ba, malalaman naman ng tao yun eh. If ikaw ba ay totoo sa sarili mo at ikaw ba ay talagang hindi ka ba nagbibiro na kaya mo ako in-approach ay para talaga makilala ako. So kilala mo naman agad sa tao kung siya ay trustworthy. And also listen. Napakahalaga na nakikinig tayo sa mga sinasabi nila, 'di ba? Para mas lalo natin silang maintindihan. And after we listen, that's the time we need to affirm them. 'Di ba? Kasi yung lahat ng gender, hindi lang yung LGBT, gusto natin laging may affirmation, lagi tayong i-affirm. Kasi talagang nakaka-motivate yun, nakaka-boost yun ng confidence na merong taong nakakaintindi sa atin. Sabi nga, always say you are beautiful just the way you are. Kaya nga may kanta tayo ni Bruno Mars na just the way you are, di ba? And promote representation and shut down anti-LGBTQ behavior. Now, since you are already part of the community, that's the right time na rin na mag-stand ka na rin for the community. Kung nakakakita ka, nakakarinig ka ng binubuli ang isang miyembro ng LGBT, ipagtanggol mo sila, ipaglaban mo. Don't just sit down at walang gagawin at sasabihin mo hindi ka makikialam. No, it is your responsibility. Like what I said in the opening statement ng video o ng presentation ko, lahat tayo, huwag nating ikakaila na meron tayong mga kaibigang miyembro ng LGBTQIA+. So yun, I do hope na somehow naka-add ako ng insights dun sa mga questions kanina na binato sa first speaker.
Yes, sir. Meron po tayong question dito from Anonymous. How should I talk to my heterosexual friends or classmates who don't like a lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender person in our classroom or any other group I'm in?
Okay, first of all, if they are your friends, then why bakit hindi ka nila i-approach? I mean, why will they not accept you for being who you are? Of course, naging kaibigan ka nila because of your personality, because of who you are as a person. Kumbaga kung pinakita mo na agad sa kanila kung ano yung gender identity mo, dapat i-accept ka na nila. Kaya nga sabi ko kanina dito sa presentation ko, go to a certain group of people who will accept you for being who you are. Now, if natotoxican ka na sa a certain group, they are not your friends. Diba? They are not your friends anymore. Kasi hindi ka nila maintindihan eh. Kumbaga, dapat yun ay, sana mag-meet kayo in between. Kumbaga, hindi porke kayo ay straight at kami ay part ng LGBT ay hindi tayo magkakaswak sa isa't isa. Humanap kayo ng paraan para mag-meet in between at intindihin ang inyong mga sarili. Now, if still hindi ka ma-accept ng community or ng group of people na yon, learn to let go and to move on. Pero hindi ko sinasabi sa'yo na gagantihan mo sila. Mas maganda yung nagpapakababa ka pa rin at nagiging humble. Hindi natin masasabi kasi na merong mga taong agad-agad tayo ma-accept. Kasi sabi ko nga, through time, lagi namang sa huli, di ba sa oras lagi. Yung sa huli lagi yung pagsisisi. Siguro, kahit hindi ka nila matanggap ngayon, darating yung oras na magsisisi sila na, pinakawalan ko yung best friend ko. Diba? Parang pinakawalan ko yung kaibigan ko. Hayaan mo na lang sila. Kumbaga ay, let them enjoy themselves na sila lang at humanap ka ng mga kaibigan na maiintindihan ka palalo. I do hope na na-answer ko yung question.
Yes po. Okay, kung sino man yung nag-send. Thank you very much and thank you very much po sir sa inyong comprehensive na sagot.
Our second question is up po, but still yung sender po wants to remain anonymous. So here's the question. What should I do if I think someone is a part of LGBTQIA+ community, but they haven't told me?
Then you should respect their privacy. Like what I said, the reason why hindi pa sila nagko-come out is because they're trying to understand who they are as a person. Like in my experience, I didn't come out early. Kumbaga, hindi ako nag-come out agad-agad, especially to my family, because I am still looking for a lot of answers to my questions. Why am I like this? Why am I different from other people? Kumbaga, I still have that kind of idea before coming out na hindi ako confident sa sarili ko. So kung kaibigan mo yung ganitong tao na nahihirapan pang i-confirm yung identity niya, learn to respect their privacy. Learn to respect na hindi pa siguro yun yung panahon na mag-come out sila. So what you're going to do as a friend is just to support them. Kumbaga kung ano yung hilig nila, yung walang magbabago sa relasyon yung magkaibigan. So yun, learn to respect their privacy, learn to respect their time, because eventually once that they are already confident and once that they already know who they are as a person, ikaw yung una nilang pupuntahan at ikaw din yung una nilang sasabihan na tanggap ko na yung sarili ko. So I do hope that I answered the question.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. I totally agree with you po na it's all about respecting one another po. So mayroon po ulit, sir, Anonymous. So sabi po niya,
bibigyan ko yung mga anonymous na yan ng premyo. Hindi nagbibigay ng pangalan.
baka for privacy reasons din po.
Oh, okay.
Okay po. Sabi po niya, how should I respond to friends or classmates who feel negatively about a person who is a member of LGBTQIA+ community?
Okay, how will you respond? Let's say the first, yung bang taong nagtanong nito ay alay na. Kung alay ka na, then you should respond in a way na i-educate mo sila. Kumbaga, you become an ally na eh. So, kumbaga, parang ano to, yung mga ginagawa natin ngayon, yung parang humahanap pa tayo na, nagre-recruit tayo. Kumbaga, it's like a recruitment na since you become an ally, you recruit people to also do the same thing, to also understand those people who are part of the LGBTQIA+. So, kung nakakarinig ka na ng negative statements from other people, learn to educate them. Go to them. Wag mo agad-agad birahin. Kasi may mga taong baka mas maano pa sa'yo, kumbaga, ma-offend. Dahil bakit ba yung sarili kong opinion to, entitled tayo sa lahat ng opinions. Yes, I do understand that we are all entitled with our own opinions, but simulan natin siya sa pag-educate. Then ask question, then listen, then you affirm, and then you promote representation. And that's the time that you shut down those behavior. Para nga yun yung empower for LGBTQ youth through inclusive practices. Kumbaga utay-utay lang hanggang sa matuto sila sa huli na, okay, tama pala yung sinabi naman niya na dapat nga ganito yung tamang pagrespeto sa mga miyembro ng LGBTQ. So, wag ka lang, sabi ko nga, don't just sit there, do something. So yun. That's my personal thought about the question.
Ayan po. I hope the sender is satisfied with sir's answer. So we have our third question po from Mr. Earl Marshall Kaingkoy. How can I respond to people who object to LGBTQ people for religious reasons?
Again, what's the question again?
How can I respond to people who object to LGBTQ people for religious reasons?
Okay, for religious reason. Yeah, na-touch na natin ang religion. Like what I said, since religion ang tinutukoy natin and they have different views in terms of the LGBTQ people, then sabi ko nga, wag natin silang agad-agad patulan. Kumbaga, let us give them time to think and learn about the community. Kasi sila, mostly of those people who are in the religion, they will say different things about the Bible na ang ginawa lang ng Diyos ay babae at lalaki. Kumbaga, paulit-ulit yun, mahirap manalo sa isang argumento na ang laging pinagbabasehan ay yung mga nasa Biblia. But kung nakaka-experience ka ng ganong situation, then like what I said, no need naman for you to fight or to win the situation na kailangan dahil ayaw nilang tanggapin yung ideyang ito, ipaglalaban ko pa rin yung community, or dahil alay ako, ipaglalaban ko pa rin yung community ko. No. Kung ayaw nilang i-accept yung mga ideas mo, that's the time na you move on. Kumbaga, learn to walk away. There's nothing wrong in walking away to certain people who do not accept you for being who you are, or for not accepting your friends. Sabi ko nga, mahirap manalo talaga sa mga ganong argumento. So, go to those people who will understand you better. No need for you to stay with those people na hindi ka naman naiintindihan. So, mas magandang gano'n na lang yung gawin mo kapag ang pinag-uusapan na ay about sa religion. Aminin natin sa lahat na naka-experience din tayo ng ganitong situation. Ako, even me, I also experienced being asked, why are you like that? According to the Bible, you should be like this, you should be like that. And it's hard to win an argument because they are all basing it with the Bible. But in my presentation earlier, like what I said in the religion sector, even though there are some of those church leaders who are against our community, there are still some who became an ally. Kung makikita ninyo, kung mai-research ninyo sa internet, meron pa ring mga miyembro, kumbaga, ng simbahan na hindi naman tumitiligsa sa community natin. So, ang dapat lang natin gawin, humanap tayo ng mga ganong pastors or ng mga ganong religious persons who will accept us for being who we are. So, hayaan mo na, iset aside mo na lang yung mga taong hindi ka naiintindihan for that kind of sector. So, yun lang yung masasabi ko. Wag ka na makipagtalo sa kanila dahil hindi ka mananalo. Na, I experienced that. So, sabi ko, natuto na ako. If I'm going to meet another set of people who have that kind of thought, hindi na ako magsasayang ng laway. Kumbaga, I respect them for their opinions, but I really don't care what they think of me. So ganun yung paniniwala ko. I respect them, but I don't really care. So yun.
Okay, thank you very much po, sir. Okay, Earl. Learn when to walk away.
Oh, learn to walk away. Kumbaga, if natotoxican ka na, that's the time you make yourself unavailable for those people. Diba? Learn to make yourself unavailable for those people who do not like you. So yun lang yung maipayo ko sa inyo. Pero hindi ko sinasabing makipag-away kayo ha. So hindi na sasagot lahat yung pakikipag-away para lang mai-win mo yung argument na yun. No. Sometimes the best way to end the fight is not to start the fight and just to walk away. So yun.
Okay, thank you po. So at least you tried your best to enlighten them. So meron pa po ulit nag-send sa akin ng private message from Miss from Miss Crystal Joy Plandes po. Personally, agree ka po ba na magkaroon ng sariling CR ang LGBTQ members?
Yes. Hindi ako mag-hesitate to say yes. Yes, we need a comfort room for us, for our community. Because like what the first speaker said, there are some assaults happening if a transgender woman go to a comfort room for males. Diba? And let's have this kind of idea. Even though you are a transgender woman, you still, kumbaga, yung sarili mo, ikaw ay babae, kahit ikaw ay transgender woman, di ba? Isinasabuhay mo na ikaw ay babae. So you also need that kind of comfort na pagpasok mo sa CR, dapat komportable ka, di ba? Kumbaga, yung mga nagagamit nilang amenities or yung kung anong matatagpuan sa CR na yun, sana mayroong katulad rin nung sa babae. Kasi we deserve to have a comfortable experience whenever we go to, hindi lang sa CR. Kumbaga, in any places, kailangan maging komportable tayo. Kasi once we feel that we are comfortable, that's the time na mafe-feel natin na tayo ay ini-embrace na ng community. Di ba? Magandang pakiramdam na pagpunta mo sa isang lugar na komportable ka, safe na safe ka, ibig sabihin tanggap ka ng lugar na yun. Mahirap na mo pumunta sa isang lugar na naramdaman mo nang hindi ka komportable, ipagpipilitan mo pa yung sarili mo. Di ba? Umalis ka na lang dun sa lugar na yun. So that's the same way with the comfort room. Para maging, kaya nga sinasabing comfort room you need comfort, di ba? Paano ka magiging comfortable kung nibubuli ka inside the CR? Diba? So yun, I am in favor for having a third comfort room for the third sexes.
Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. Do you have questions left po?
Mm-mm.
I think none. No questions na po. Since there are no more questions from you, participants, let's end our Q&A portion here. Again, thank you so much, Mr. Marceliano, for accepting our invitation to be part of our advocacy of standing up with the LGBTQIA+ community. To formally award the certificate to our guest speaker.
Can I have my own questions then?
Sure
Para
po.
at least to reward them. It's 6 questions lang na answerable by some of those na binanggit ko kanina sa presentation. Ipinasa ko na kanina sa committee yung mga questions. So can we post that? Para at least I'll check kung meron bang learning. Yes sir, pwede daw po. Yes po Sir Joshua. I also did that last year, natatandaan ko, dun sa NSTP nung nagdaang mga students. Madali lang yung mga questions. I'll be giving at least siguro 30 pesos for each student na makakasagot. So Ma'am Mary, can I ask you to get the GCash numbers of those students na makakasagot ng tama? Sa chat room na lang. Yung kauna-unahan, alam ko may mga mag-aano dyan may mga sasagot ng marami. Ang pipiliin natin yung pinakang kaunahan. Pero once na nabigyan na kayo ng prize, please give chance to others. Okay, so questions for a cause. I-ready na ang ating mga daliri. The first question is, what do you mean by soji? So what do you mean by soji? Yan, patingin ako Ma'am Mary Rose kung sino yung kaunahang sasagot ng ibig sabihin ng soji.
Okay po, sir. I-monitor po natin ang ating chat
Yes,
box.
monitor natin ang chat box natin.
Okay, ang nauna po ay si Miss Joyce Ann Garcia. Sabi po niya, sexual orientation and gender identity and expression.
Ayan, thank you very much sa ating unang nanalo. So, paasa ko ng GCash account number niya. I'll be sending the 30 pesos later.
Okay po.
Okay.
Miss Joyce Ann, makikisend sa akin ang iyong GCash at isasend natin kay sir.
Okay, next question is, true or false? Ayan, dali lang yung question ko. True or false? In the Philippines, there are no national laws protecting people from abuse or discrimination based on one's soji or sexual orientation, gender identity expression. So is it a true or a false?
Okay, may nakasagot na po agad sa ating chat box. Si Mr. Earl Marshall Kainkoy. According to him, true daw po.
True. So, yeah. Okay, the correct answer is true. So wala nga tayong national laws protecting our soji. So next. How many Philippine provinces prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity? So I'm asking, how many Philippine provinces? So ilan bang probinsya sa Pilipinas yun? Yung merong ordinances for both sexual and gender. Ayaw, parang wala pang sumasagot
Okay, participants.
Okay, how many provinces? Wala tayo atang mabibigyan
Sir, meron na po ulit. Nauna po si Mr. Earl Marshall Kainkoy. Sabi po niya, 8 provinces daw po.
8 provinces. Okay, the correct answer is 8. But will it be okay for going to award the 30 pesos to the second one?
Okay,
Kasi
sir.
nakasagot na, di ba? Di ba
Yes
sabi ko
po.
kanina, let's give chance to other people naman, to other students.
Okay, ang nakasagot po na pangalawa is si Miss Marie Claire Manalo. 8 daw po.
Ayan, okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Sir Earl. You can actually answer the last question. Yung last question natin, I'll be giving 50 pesos naman doon. Since mahaba-haba yung question ko doon. Okay, next is, Ayan, what Magna Carta addresses concerns regarding the discrimination of public social workers because of their sexual orientation? So ano bang Magna Carta yung gagamitin natin if we are experiencing discrimination in our workplace? Kailangan nyo yan kapag naging part na kayo ng government or ng any private enterprises. So kapag nakaka-experience kayo ng discrimination, just go to the Magna Carta for blank. Okay, nagtatype pa ba or alam po ang sagot?
Okay, we have an answer na po from Miss Marie Claire Manalo. Sabi po niya, Magna Carta for Public Social Workers.
Okay, Magna Carta for Public Social Workers is the correct answer. Nabigyan na natin si Mama, no?
Yes po.
Oo, yung second.
Si Miss Joyce and Garcia po.
Nabigyan na rin natin kanina kaunahan.
Yes po.
Wala na bang iba? Ilan lang ba tayo dito? Okay. Sige, paano ba? Anong gagawin natin? Sige, the last one, the last question is, ayan, hindi pa pala tayo last. So what are the 3 methods on how to accept yourself as LGBTQIA+? So there are 3 methods. Ang haba nung sagot natin. Okay, the first one is processing your emotions. The next one is embracing your sexuality. Ba talagang nakinig si Sir Earl ah. And the last one will be once you already process, you're going to express your sexual is that identify ba yun? That's siguro may mali dun sa last.
Baka po typographical error.
Typographical error. So that should be identity. Okay. Ayan. Thank you very much, Sir Earl. Sige, bigyan na nga natin kay Sir Earl. So, meron ka ng 60 pesos. Okay, so the last question is, I wanna hear it. Kumbaga, ay mag-unmute ng microphone. So, I'll be giving 50 pesos for this question. Can we ask someone? Kanina pinagsagot niyo ako dun sa mga tanong ninyo. Now, I'll be the one to ask this question. As a student of your university and as a future educator, how will you empower the LGBTQIA+ community? Now, it's your turn to answer the question. Okay, anyone from the group? Can we have someone from the group to answer this question?
Nasaan na yun?
Oh, sagot na. Okay, since pinakang active naman si Sir Earl, may I ask Sir Earl to unmute his microphone and answer this question?
May I call on Mr. Earl Marshall Kainkoy to answer this question? Please unmute your microphone to signify your presence here.
Kasi napaka-active ni Sir.
I'm audible po ba, sir? Good afternoon po.
Good afternoon. Yes,
So,
you're audible.
Yes, bro. So, as a student of your university and as a future educator, how will you empower the LGBTQIA+ community? So first po is, syempre magiging role model po ako sa mga pagkapatupad ng mga do's and don'ts na dapat gawin sa pag-approach sa LGBTQ. Isang member ng LGBTQIA+. And actually po may share ako. Bali, may pinsan po ako na alay po siya, member po siya ng isang ng LGBTQIA+. Hindi ko na po siya papangalanan. So, ang actually po nung una, nung hindi ko po alam ang kwento is talagang nidi-discriminate ko po siya. Honest po ako na dinidiscriminate ko po siya dati. Not until po na nalaman ko yung pinakang backstory ng kwento. Lahat po pala ng naging ex niya na babae, which is niloko siya. Then, yun po yung nagtulak sa kanya na sa ngayon po is ang ika-relasyon po niya is boys, which is ka-same sex gender po niya. Then yun, nung nalaman ko po na ganun yung kwento, syempre po, kasi sa totoo lang po, yung kunyari, kaklase ko ngayon, then mamimit yung pinsan ko na yun, tinatanong po nila sa akin kung si lahis or bakla siya. Then ang sagot ko po this bakla po, siya, ano po, hindi ko pa po kasi alam yung pinaka backstory. So, ngayon po na nalaman ko na, ano po, parang sinasabi ko na sa na hindi siya bakla, ano lang, may pinagdadaanan lang, may trauma lang sa girls. Then yun po, sometimes din po may nagdi-discriminate sa kanya. So hindi ko po yun dati pinapansin. Then ngayon pong nalaman ko is nag-step forward na po ako para ipagtanggol siya. Which is sinasabi ko na tayo is may individual reasons tayo sa mga ating ginagawa and actions. So yun, intindihin na lang nila, respect others before others respect you. Parang ganun po. And yun lang po.
Ayan, thank you very much, Sir Earl, for that, for your answer. So meron kang, yan, at least maganda naman na ang nirelate mo sa amin is based from your experience or based for the experience of your cousin who is hindi pa na siguro hindi pa nila kino-confirm kung anong identity niya, no. Now I'd like to say na hindi naman siguro porque nagkameron ng trauma. Siguro meron ding there are actually reasons, tama yung sinabi mo, may mga personal reasons why he decided to have a relationship with another man or with the same sex. So let us give that person a time to better understand himself. Kasi in the future naman, kung ano talaga yung gusto niya, what you're going to do as the cousin is for you to just, sabi mo nga, you become a role model, so susuportahan mo yung cousin mo kung whatever man ang kanyang maging decision sa buhay niya. So I'd like that kumuha ka ng experience coming from your cousin. So thank you very much. Ayan, meron pa bang gustong sumagot or wala na?
Okay, so meron po tayong sagot dito sa chat box.
Ayan.
From MG Eduardo, from SLSU student. Treat everyone with respect. Being an ally of the community, we have the ability to influence others. Use our platform to better understand the value of equality and respect for them, as they are no different from any human being. Handle situations such what has been mentioned earlier, to discuss it with a sense of privacy and professionalism. Okay, thank you po.
Ayan, thank you very much. That's from LSP or SLSU?
SLSU po.
SLSU, what branch?
Wala pong naka-indicate.
Wala nakalagay.
SLSU
Lukban. So we have from Lukban. I like the answer. I like the answer of Miss ba? Ayan. MG Eduardo, treat everyone with respect. Being an ally of the community, we all have the ability to influence. That's very true. Once you become an ally, you also become an influencer, and you influence for the community that you are part of, or kung anong community sinusuportahan mo. So I like the answer of the two. So sige, hihingan ko na rin ng GCash number si Ma'am MG Eduardo. So again, thank you very much for inviting me, and I do hope na somehow I was able to impart some knowledge to you guys.
Thank you so much to our very generous speaker, Sir JJ, and to the participation of our attendees. To formally award the certificate to our guest speaker, may I call on Ms. Kyle Maxine Norada.
Ayan, thank you so much kay Sir Joshua. Hindi ako makapag-type again. May bisita din kami. Sige.
Ms. Kyle?
Ayan, magandang hapon din kay Ma'am Cyrene Osenia. Ma'am, magandang hapon po.
Thank you very much, Sir JJ, for your initiative and effort to be with our speaker this afternoon.
Yes, this is my second time, ma'am. 'Di ba? Nag-meet na
Yes,
rin tayo
I
na
remember we
nakaraan.
had our first one, June 30, 2021. First.
Yes, I'll be posting the first certificate and the second certificate I'll be having this afternoon.
Yes, thank you.
Ayan, thank you again. Ay, Ma'am Mary, basta ikaw na lang magbigay sa akin ha, i-chat mo na lang ako mamaya. And then to those people who were able to answer the questions na binigay ko kanina, please do wait mamaya siguro pag uwi ko ng bahay ibibigay ko na. Ay.
So thank you very much po, sir, for sharing your knowledge. And due to confidentiality issue, we would not share screen the certificate for now. And to give acknowledgement for our speaker, Mr. John Joseph Marceliana, let me read the content of this certificate. Philippine Normal University South Luzon, the National Center for Teacher Education, the Technology and Livelihood Education Hub, Certificate of Recognition. This certificate is proudly presented to Mr. John Joseph L. Marceliana for sharing his expertise as resource speaker in the webinar entitled Webinar Series Being LGBTQIA in the Philippines, Challenges, Rights, and Empowerment for Gender Sensitivity and Equity, given the 3rd day of August 2022. Signed by Professor Cyrene C. Osenia, our NSTP coordinator, Professor Mark Joshua Hagosojos, our NSTP 12 part-time faculty, and our Dean for Academics and TLE, Dr. Amar F. Lunisa. Once again, the Certificate of Recognition is awarded to Mr. John Joseph L. Marceliana.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you po.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, God bless.
Okay, and that's our wrap, guys. The evaluation form is now available at the chat box. Please do not forget to fill that out as we will be sending your certificates. But before we bid our goodbyes, may we request everyone to open their cameras so we can take a group photo. Okay, dear participants, open your cameras and wear your best smiles. Okay. Okay, and 1, 2, smile. Okay, isa pa po. And 1 and 2 and smile. Okay, last. 1, 2 and smile. Okay, thank you very much po.
Thank you for being with us the whole afternoon. We hope that you have gained a lot of insights about being LGBTQIA+ in the Philippines, challenges, rights, and empowerment for gender sensitivity and equity. Allow me to repeat a statement from Mr. Marceliana's talk. Let us all be reminded to not hate but rather educate, as we all stand with the LGBTQIA+ community to build a safe and inclusive environment for everyone.
This ends here, but before we formally close this program, I want to highlight a quote from Miss Manalo's presentation. Mga anak din kami ng Diyos, bilang LGBTQ at tao rin kami, kailangan din namin ng mga karapatan. And from Mr. Marceliana's talk, LGBTQ rights are also human rights. So from this, I hope that together we will spread respect, acceptance, and unity despite of our sexual orientation and gender identity. Once again, this is Mary Rose S. Macabuhay, together with my partner, Miss Stephanie Alyssa M. Lladonez, your today's MC signing off. Thank you so much for joining.
valued and loved, it is the warmest sensation.
We all matter.
Be part of the creation of a safe and inclusive community. Awaken your sense of humanity. Stand with us. Break the stigma and misconception through the power of knowledge. With the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, will lead us to build a better future for us and our generations.
Attend the webinar prepared by the students from Philippine Normal University South Luzon campus, entitled Being LGBTQIA in the Philippines, Challenges, Rights, and Empowerment for Gender Sensitivity and Equity.
3 Sustainable Development Goals will be pursued. SDG 5, Gender Equality, a fundamental human right, and the foundation for a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world. SDG 10, aims at reducing inequality and ensuring no one is left behind within and among countries. SDG 4 is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all.
Ms. Manalo will talk about the overview at 12:30 p.m. and at 2:20 p.m. a talk on empowerment by Mr. John Joseph Marcelana.
Learn together because we are stronger together. Fill out the registration to build a future for the better.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a blood, gonna drown a mind. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. This is who I'm meant to be. This is me.